Crossman, who's in Abu Dhabi for 5 Live Sport. I'm very jealous. Have a good one, Steve.
Thank you very much, Laura. Yeah, afternoon. Welcome to Abu Dhabi, here for the final Grand Prix of the Formula One season as we arrive with Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen tied on points at the top of the standing. So we're bringing you full commentary. The race starts in exactly an hour's time. You'll also get full commentary of Leicester Newcastle in the Premier League on 5 Live Sports Extra. The second half will be here on 5 Live. Then we'll bring you Crystal Palace against Everton in full as well. So it is a packed afternoon on 5 Live Sport. We're going to be surrounded by celebrities. We're going to hear from the great Usain Bolt, who's just been chatting to us about his love for Lewis Hamilton. Lots to get through. I will tell you all about it after the news with Jill McKenzie.
This is 5 Live Sport
with Steve Crossman.
Good afternoon. This is 5 Live Sport, live from the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We are under an hour away now from lights out and the start of the decisive and final race of the F1 season. But right now, the lights are very much on. If you could see through the bright sun and the close heat of the United Arab Emirates, then you'd see spotlights on Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Dead level on points at the top of the championship. Identical in performance, but polar opposite in personality. In fact, the only thing that they've got in common is that in the next few minutes, they will both walk right past where we are now, because we are perched. We're in between the team offices of Hamilton's Mercedes and Verstappen's Red Bull, and they're absolutely beautiful, bright pink and purple flower beds outside. They will only ever be here for one weekend a year, and yet they're based in what effectively look like picturesque Nice cafes on the Riviera. We've got the big yachts behind us. We also have the pit lane. We're going to be live on the grid in the final half hour of the show as we build up to the race, which starts at 1 p.m. We're surrounded by celebrities. We're going to talk shortly to Usain Bolt. If I look hard enough, I'd be able to find Emerson Fittipaldi, the Brazilian driver, who was the last man to be tied on points with a title rival coming into the final race. That was the Italian Clay Regazzoni. 47 years ago it was, and Fittipaldi triumphed. We will also bring you the second half of Leicester against Newcastle in the...
But not yet on goals. Hearts nil, Rangers nil.
Roddy, thank you very much. The main event, though, is right here in Abu Dhabi, where a season of great racing and really, really bad feeling is going to come to a head. The tension will break today, but the rules have been bending all year.
All the cars are in position. The most anticipated season in a long time in Formula One begins now. And he's done it. Verstappen holds off the Hamilton charge. Hamilton doesn't give him room. And they bang wheels. And they're off.
My word, this championship battle has taken another twist and turn.
Oh, into the wall is Max Verstappen from the lead of the race. Max Verstappen has crashed out.
Every driver that's driven at this circuit knows you do not stick a wheel up the inside at Cops.
Michael, I just send you an email.
Toto, I don't access my emails during a race deliberately.
Yeah, then you should maybe look at this, because there is something with the rules coming up.
The Dutch fans in the grandstand are on their feet because Max Verstappen wins his home Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, at the scene of clinching his first World Championship in 2008, takes a huge step towards winning his 8th by winning in Brazil.
This is the most dominant display we have seen by a long shot this season.
Lewis Hamilton, the checkered flag falls, and he keeps this championship fight going down to the last 2 races. Verstappen goes in deep. Verstappen hits the wall. Hamilton's on pole. Oh, they crashed. Hamilton's gone into the back of Verstappen.
He's backed off, and then as soon as Hamilton's come past, Verstappen has just lunged it straight back down the inside. It's an absolute nonsense.
The checkered flag falls. Hamilton wins in Jeddah and is now level on points with Max Verstappen. It's a one-race shootout to win the 2021 Formula One World Championship after one of the most insane races in the history of Formula One.
Great job, guys. Great job. That's more like it. Come on. Let's keep pushing, man.
It is what it is, mate. I tried at least.
This year's really felt like David taking on Goliath. To take on that machine and be here in Abu Dhabi at the last race, tied on points with one final shot at it. We're going to go for it.
Being myself, that always worked really well in my whole career, and now I'm just very excited to be here and try to really fight for it.
We were in some unmarked territory as a team. I'm sure so many people would have ruled us out being this close, and no one's ever done 8 before.
It's bigger than a 100-metre sprint final in the Olympics. It's bigger than the World Cup final.
It's the finale Formula One's been waiting for a long time.
Gloves are off and nothing else to be expected.
Oh yeah, the gloves are off. In fact, it's hard to remember the last time the gloves were on. We've had snipe and counter-snipe, the stinging slants back and forth from team bosses and drivers. In fact, it was only yesterday that Christian Horner, who is the team principal, the boss of Red Bull, said the only way that he'd see the Mercedes boss Toto Wolff at Christmas was if he was in panto, and then he'd go with his kids. But it's not pantomime. It is real. The ill feeling is real. Delighted to say that with us live on 5 Live Sport, we've got the whole F1 team. We've got commentator Jack Nicholls. We've got the former Renault F1 driver Jolyon Palmer. We've got Jenny Gow, who'll be on the grid and next to the pit lane with us throughout the afternoon. Jack, this is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, it doesn't get any bigger than this, does it? I mean, I'm too excited already, aren't I? It's the most dramatic season finale in the history of Formula One, and it hasn't even happened yet. There's just no way that it's not going to be incredible because of the season we've had, because of the way they're lined up on the grid, and it's so amazing to have the whole atmosphere here as well. We've been to a few races this season because of COVID and all of that. It hasn't had that kind of proper F1 vibe. This really is a Formula One vibe.
You've been a little bit emotional, if I may say, in the last sort of day or so, Jack.
It's just really quite amazing to see how many people are interested in motorsport at the moment and in Formula One. And, you know, I grew up being kind of the only person I knew who liked motorsport and who liked Formula One. And at school, no one liked it. And at sixth form, no one liked it. At uni, no one liked it. And, OK, I found these two people here who like it, who I work with on 5 Live. And then you come here and this is an away match for both sets of fans. It's an away match for Hamilton. It's an away match for Verstappen. But there's tens of thousands of fans who have come out here to watch it. And I don't remember really seeing anything like that.
It's amazing to think, Jolyon, as Lewis Hamilton walks away to our right-hand side, there's a little flutter of cheers. He gives them a thumbs up, standing with his mask on as he strolls through. A couple of moments ago, actually, Max Verstappen strode through the paddock and into the pit lane. They'll both be having their final looks at their cars and getting ready for the race, which starts in 50 minutes' time. Whatever those two do today, Jolyon, we already know. We'll be talking about it for years, decades to come.
Yeah, it feels like a bit of a boxing match at the moment. The two contenders just heading to the ring. But because there's so much at stake, there's been so much drama this year, I think, hopefully, we get a great race today and it sends off what I believe is the best Formula One season I've ever witnessed this year. The drama, the tension, the two greats that are there. And it's going to be remembered because either today, Lewis Hamilton will become an 8-time world champion, the greatest of all time, or Max Verstappen, who is undoubtedly a star of the future and a star of this year, can get his first world championship. It's going to be really, really notable.
We've already had some great rivalries in this sport, and you can go back much longer than even Jolyon has been alive, Jenny. And you were speaking, weren't you, to Alain Prost? Of course, Prost Senna, one of the most famous. I'm not saying this is on that level yet, but, you know, stand by.
Yeah, and he was fascinating to talk to as well. He said if he was trying to compete in this day and age in the background of social media out there, he would hate it because he knows exactly the character he would have been portrayed as, which is kind of the baddie, the Max Verstappen of his era. And he said it would have been unbearable. And that's the pressure that these drivers are under today. The whole of the world, it seems like, is watching this paddock. It's watching Max, it's watching Lewis for the smallest little thing they can pick up on, that they can analyse, that they can reflect on. And, you know, I've just seen Jos Verstappen, Max's dad, walk through to the garage. He looks like an expectant parent in a waiting room at a hospital. He's so on edge, so nervous.
There's been a goal up in Scotland, Roddy.
Yes, indeed. Rangers with their first attack. Hearts by a goal to nil at Tynecastle.
Thank you, Roddy. Here in the paddock then, live at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, we're expecting that all kinds of big celebrities will wander around very shortly, so we will try and grab a word with one or two of them just before the race. Hopefully we will be on the grid and speaking to Toto Wolff and Christian Horner. But now the drivers have gone past us, they can focus finally on the race. All they've had to do is one more pre-race interview. So let's hear from both of them, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton.
Honestly, it's amazing. The support we always have here is great. What a beautiful place. in the world in terms of weather and culture and people. It's a beautiful place for us to have this Grand Prix, so I'm happy to be back. I've prepared in the best way possible. I've given it absolutely everything, so then it comes down to just doing what I love doing most and just be me on track, and try to assess the situations around me as composed and with the best intentions and the best energy I can, and give it everything.
It's great to see all the fan support around the track. Of course, it's also the final race, so everyone wants to come out. But it's always good to see the support. Let's see what the tyres will do in the race, but we're confident that the tyres will be decent. So a lot of things can happen throughout the race with strategy as well. But at least it's the right tyre for the start.
Delighted to say we have got the king of speed, Usain Bolt, with us. Usain, first Grand Prix, 50th Grand Prix. How often do you come?
I've been to a few now. I think this is probably my 5th one. I'm always happy to be here, just the atmosphere. This is my first time in Abu Dhabi, so that's a great experience also.
I just said you were the king of speed. Is it you? Is it Lewis Hamilton? Is it Max Verstappen?
Listen, I have the record as the fastest man in the world, so I am the king of speed.
Who do you want to win?
Lewis for sure. I know Lewis personally, we always talk, we have a relationship, so I definitely want Lewis to win.
Yeah, I mean, Max Verstappen has been going at him all season long. You know what it's like to have those great rivalries. Do they bring the best out of both athletes?
I definitely think so. It has proven this season that it's bringing the best out of both of them. They're really pushing themselves hard. And I'm excited. I think now everybody's excited for this race because it's the last one, but I'm confident that Lewis is going to show up and show out, so it's going to be good.
Have you had a chance to speak to him?
No, I'll probably see him a little before he goes into the race, and I'll say my few words, but not yet.
Usain, lovely of you to stop and talk to us. Thanks very much. Enjoy the race.
Thank you.
Top man. That's Usain Bolt with us on 5 Live Sport.
Certainly is. And Steve, let me ask you a very quick question.
Yes.
Are you surprised by how much you can actually see the drivers, speak to the drivers, go on the grid, which we're going to do in the second part of this hour?
We literally got to walk the track the other day, which is crazy. And we on 5 Live Breakfast today, you were speaking to one of the top stewards who may in the end have to decide who wins the Formula One World Championship. And we'll talk about the rules in a second, but that's basically like speaking to the referee of the World Cup final just before kickoff, isn't it? It's crazy.
Yeah, the access you get here, the ability to basically stand in the middle of a stadium just as the first kick of the World Cup final. That's the comparison of it, or the first ball of the Super Bowl. That's what we get to do, and it's extraordinary that they let us.
Jack Nicholls, prepare yourself for a question about the rules this afternoon and how it will affect Verstappen and Hamilton. There's been another goal at Tynecastle though, Roddy.
And another goal for Rangers. Going Hearts 0, Rangers 2.
Just under 45 minutes to go until race time here at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Jenny Gow, former Renault F1 driver Jolyon Palmer, and commentator Jack Nicholls, all with us live from the paddock in the United Arab Emirates. Right, Jack, Verstappen and Hamilton dead level, but Verstappen has more wins. That's his goal difference. Yeah. If neither of them finish the race, he wins the title. Can he just smash into Hamilton? Can he try a Schumacher on Damon Hill or not?
So he can try it. And he can try and get away with it. And try and, accidentally we've had a collision. And there is a scenario in which they could accidentally crash, and it is an accident, and Verstappen wins the championship. What Verstappen can't do is clearly intentionally wipe out Hamilton, because then the stewards will give him a points penalty or disqualify him from the championship or something along those lines. So it's not inconceivable that they crash and Verstappen's the champion, but if it's anything deliberate, then it's going to be looked upon very disapprovingly.
And this is all obviously a major talking point after the last race just last week in Saudi, where there were many focal points of Verstappen basically being really aggressive with more than just goal difference. He had points difference last week, and if he had have basically won the race or taken them both out, he'd be standing here or getting into his car right now with a much easier job, basically. But there's been so much talk about it this week. And Red Bull and Christian Horner, the team principal, Max as a driver, they've all basically said, we want to win it fair, we want to win it clean. You never know. When the helmet goes on and they're going to go wheel to wheel later, if a bit of red miss, he's going to do everything he can to win it. So in that moment, he's going to try things to hold Lewis back. Lewis has to beat him today to win the championship. So is right going to come down to the wire.
I know one of the things that Jack's really excited about as a self-confessed sci-fi nerd is the fact that George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, is supposedly somewhere around here. And the reason, Jack, I mention him is because Red Bull's Christian Horner has said this season, you know, he feels like they've been painted as the bad guys, but he said, quote, "We want to be the Rebel Alliance. We don't want to be the Stormtroopers. We don't want to be the Empire." But here's my question. Have they kind of turned themselves into the bad guys?
I think that there's a lot of support for Max Verstappen out there. There's a lot of support always for the underdog, for the changing of the guard. It was the same when Schumacher won his 4 back-to-back titles from 2000 to 2004. A lot of the Alonso support was because, okay, you know, we're seeing something different. And you see it all the time when, you know, the Invincibles lost against Man United. There's quite a lot of support for that because you want to see something different from time to time. And I think that's the situation we're in with Hamilton. Red Bull were always kind of the plucky underdog who, you know, couldn't make it work. But I think there was a big sea change after Saudi Arabia with the way that Verstappen sort of was driving and the getting 3 penalties in the race. I think that made a lot of people think it's difficult to really back the driver who's being this robust.
He's still got a huge amount of support, but definitely it feels like Red Bull are treading more on the edge of sort of fair racing, certainly in Saudi Arabia. I don't think they don't see it that way. They see that they're being persecuted and the stewards are out to get them and it's all a bit of a fix. But to everyone else, it looks like they're on the edge of a lot of sort of sporting rules, really, which can portray them as the bad guys. But they've still done a great job. You know, they've not fought Mercedes for a championship for many a year. Since Sebastian Vettel in 2013 was the last time they took a title. That's an awfully long time ago. So they've done a great job to be here. They should be the underdogs. They kind of are the underdogs, but they've got themselves into this position.
Just to let you know, the cars have started to go out on track. So they do a few laps around there, get themselves into the game. They'll come back into the pit lane, then go back out, around again, until they feel that they are ready to take their place on the grid. 19 drivers taking their place today. Nikita Mazepin for Haas, COVID positive this morning, so he will not compete. And Steve, just look up there. The moon is starting to come out, which means we're getting closer to the race.
And we've got Max Verstappen on pole with Lewis Hamilton, Jolyon, in second place. We're going to talk much more about the race and how it'll play out when we're out on the grid very, very shortly. But in this race, how important is pole compared to other Grand Prix?
Yeah, very important. It suddenly got really noisy as I think Verstappen's heading out of the garage to go round to the grid. It's really important, obviously with everything at stake, but it's a short run to the first corner. Track position is important. It's crucial for Max to be leading. He's taken pole yesterday, and it does mean that over the course of 58 laps, if Lewis Hamilton is to be champion, he's got to pass him, most likely, on the track. And given everything we've had so far this year, 2 moments of contact that's basically wiped out one or both drivers, another contact last week that they got away with, loads more argy-bargy as well. If Lewis Hamilton wants to win the championship later on, he has to basically come through that and come out the other side of it.
And that was one quite funny thing he said yesterday after qualifying. He said, well, I don't mind being second because I can see where Verstappen is. So he's not worried about where's Verstappen going to be. He can see him at least. That's one positive.
I mean, in terms of good guys versus bad guys, from a crowd perspective, it's all about Verstappen. You know, we heard in their post-race, post-qualifying interviews, you know, Hamilton was getting a lot of boos. He mentioned the fact that he was getting booed and Verstappen was getting cheers. Just take us into that car, Jolyon, right? Does it make a difference to a driver? Because it's not like a football player when you can hear the crowd and they're on your side. You're flying around the track.
Yeah, as soon as you put the helmet on and the engine fires up, we're standing near the cars and we can't hear a huge amount. So when you're actually strapped in one and the engine's revving and you've got the balaclava on the helmet on, you can't really hear or feel the crowd. But it does still give you an energy through the weekend. When I was racing at Silverstone for my home races, I couldn't hear the crowd, honestly, but you do get a buzz every time you're out of the car. And even just walking as they walk past us, there were little cheers for both Max and Lewis. And it just gives you a sense of occasion and a bit of a buzz, I think.
I think about 6,000 people have travelled out as part of the kind of official Netherlands Max Verstappen. We're all going to dress in orange and be the Orange Army Brigade this weekend. but it kind of feels like a home tie for him, because it feels like there is so much support here, so much love for him. They're cheering him round all the way, and that's going to help him, surely.
We should say as well, Jolien, that, in terms of the way that Christian Horner has spoken and been perceived, we've just watched Toto Wolff, the Mercedes boss, stroll out very, very coolly from the team office toward the pit lane. He's not shy of a few barbs either. This is very much a 50-50 scrap.
Yeah, that's why it's been so majestic this season. This is round 22, and it's 50-50. They're both, even the team principals, as you say, they've been so vocal, and Toto Wolff he broke his Bose headphones last week that they used for the team radio, because he was so irate about a bit of driving that Verstappen did, and he ripped them off his head and smashed them down on the table. This was like emotion, its absolute purest. Christian Horner on the other side for Red Bull has had many a moment this year as well. The tension for these guys, it's not just the drivers, the whole team, mainly the team principals, but everyone, the mechanics, the engineers, they are feeling this at the end of a long season.
And I think that's what's so great about the team principals. It gives you a view of the humanity behind the sport, because quite often you watch these cars driving around. Yeah, okay, they're called cars, but they look nothing like a car you have. You see a little helmet in the middle, and you don't see the emotion of Ryan Giggs scoring that goal against Arsenal and taking his shirt off and running around. You don't see that because they're in the cars. You get a little bit when you hear the team radio, but it's the team principals and the team members that are the window into the emotion of motorsport.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so we have got now just a few minutes until we will disappear and head off to the grid. We will be live from there very, very shortly. We'll be standing in front of the cars. Jack and Jolien, you're going to head off to the commentary box. Yeah, we'll speak to you shortly.
Great.
Nice one, Jolien Palmer there. Sounds absolutely enthused.
You get it pumped up. You give it all. Great.
Fair. Jolien Palmer and Jack Nicholls, who are 2/3 of your commentary team, with Jenny Gow, who's staying alongside me before we head out to the pit lane. It is not just about the F1 this afternoon. We've got 2 Premier League commentaries coming your way. The first one kicks off
to put up a massive European performance this afternoon.
James, thank you very much. And when it comes to pressure, forget about the drivers for a second here in Abu Dhabi. There is so much pressure on both of the teams. As James was talking there, Jenny and I have just weaved our way underneath one of the grandstands here, and we are now, as you can hear from the sound of those guns and the sound of the fans, we are right next to the grid. So we're in the pit lane, we're outside the Mercedes garage. I'm looking up at the name of Lewis Hamilton in that bright green paint over the top, and he is literally, Jenny Gow, in terms of garages, right next to Max Verstappen. He can't get away from him.
No, and the two have been inseparable all season, haven't they? If you remember, the biggest points difference was ahead of Silverstone, when all of a sudden Max Verstappen was 39 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton. There have been times when you've gone, oh, this is definitely Hamilton's, and times when you've gone, oh, this is definitely Verstappen's. And now, tied on points going into the last race of the season. I mean, fans are going on, the lucky VIPs are going onto the grid now. We'll go on in a minute. And, it's just a phenomenal atmosphere for the final day of the season.
Half an hour to go until we are underway here in Abu Dhabi. We were staring right down the pit lane. We can see the yellow boxes where the cars will come in. We can see the little markings on the floor, the millimetres that make the difference between the perfect pit stop and a terrible one. The safety car to our right-hand side is about to go out. And that cheer is because Lewis Hamilton has just emerged behind us. He has strolled through into his team garage. A little wave to the fans ahead as I look to my right-hand side. I mean, it is a sea of orange supporters in the grandstand, but there's plenty of Union Jacks as well. I can see one beautifully painted picture of Lewis Hamilton with a sign that says, now it is hammer time. It is for Lewis. It is for Max. In a couple of moments, we will be on the grid. We'll be live from the start line of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix after the news with Jill McKenzie.
This is 5 Live Sport
with Steve Crossman.
Pressure. Everyone feels it.
That's crazy, man. Just brake testing me.
Trying to control the uncontrollable.
Mate, Lewis is leaving way more than 10 cars. This is not allowed.
Until 2 worlds collide.
Hamilton's going for it again to the inside of Cops corner, and they make contact. Verstappen's off. Verstappen's in the wall. Verstappen is on top of Hamilton. They're both out of the Italian Grand Prix, and the title rivals collide again.
That's what you get when you don't leave the space.
Another incredible twist.
That's monumental.
And again.
So let's give the position back to Hamilton. Obviously, do that strategically.
Oh, they crashed! Hamilton's gone into the back of Verstappen. Verstappen was told to give the place back, so they backed off, and Hamilton has gone into the back of the Red Bull driver. The two collide again in a very bizarre circumstance.
There can be only one victor.
Verstappen gets his redemption today as he takes the win in Mexico City. Hamilton wins in Jeddah and is now level on points with Max Verstappen going to the final race of the season. It's a one-race shootout to win the 2021 Formula One World Championship after one of the most insane races in the history of Formula One.
Just who's it going to be?
Is it going to be Max Verstappen, whose car is right in front of me? If I wanted to get thrown out of this place, I could reach over and touch it. Feels like a bad idea. His tyres are covered in the heated areas that will stop them from overheating. It will keep them at the perfect temperature for race time. It is those tiny little things that can make all the difference. The blue banners around the tyres, which tell us exactly what they're going to be looking at in the first stages of the race. His car is a thing of beauty. That bright red logo on top of the black car. We said that people had painted them as the bad guys. Well, it has that kind of look about it. The car has an almost evil look about it. Lewis Hamilton, of course, in second place. We can't see his car at the moment because it's so busy. Someone's just opened a box of dry ice. Jenny Gow, they need to cool everything down because everything, the slightest thing, could be the difference between winning and losing the title.
Yeah, at this point in time, it's really tense and you can feel everybody just bubbling away. Like George Russell has joined us from the Williams team. George, this atmosphere, it's good to have Formula One back and the crowd's back. How are you feeling ahead of the race?
Yeah, it's really much how Formula One always should be, and exciting race ahead, obviously from a neutral. I guess part of us wishes you could watch it, so I'll be trying to keep an eye when I can who's where, but yeah, best of luck to those guys. I think neither of them deserve to lose, but that's not how the game works.
George, can you really keep an eye on it? Like, you're driving a Formula One car, man.
Yeah, there's a little bit of time down at some of the straights, some of the TV screens there. You can just sort of see who's where. I've obviously got a job to do, but filling it for the both of them. Like I said, they both deserve it.
Yeah, George, thank you so much. Great to have you on.
Much.
George Russell, live with us there on 5 Live Sport on the grid. Big day for him, of course, as well, Jenny.
Yeah, really big day for him. He wants to finish the championship in style, but remember, next year he is going to be Lewis Hamilton's teammate. So he says, oh yeah, this is great for the neutral. He's not neutral. He is going to be like backing Lewis Hamilton all the way, and next year he's going to be fighting him all the way.
Jolyon Palmer, if I could see through this sea of people underneath the grandstand, I'd be able to see Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes, and we'd be able to tell that the two cars are starting on different tyres. Why?
Because of qualifying ramifications yesterday. Max Verstappen had a lock-up in the middle part of qualifying, and that, basically that part, determines what tyres you have to start on today. And it was a mistake from Verstappen on a medium tyre. He had a lock-up. He couldn't use it for the start of the race, which he had wanted to do. So he starts on the soft tyre. Hamilton had no such issue. So whilst he starts behind, he starts on that medium tyre that Verstappen maybe wanted. What it means is Verstappen maybe will have slightly more grip right at the start, but he's going to have less durability of his tyre. He's going to have more degradation through the race. So it should give us a nice scenario where the driver in the front has maybe the fractionally worse strategy.
Yeah, I can't tell you how incredible it is to be down here as the crowd start to cheer. George Russell is just waving to some fans in the grandstand to our left-hand side as he walks toward the big red lights which are hanging over the top of the circuit. We are quite literally standing on the start line of the Grand Prix. One of the safety cars is just the other side of a black rope, which is just making sure nobody edges too far. Daniel Ricciardo is just standing next to us here. He's walking past the Australian, of course, such a popular driver. He's put his headphones on. He's staying very firmly in the zone. You said to us, Jolyon, the other day that nous was one of the most important parts of Lewis Hamilton's game. How much nous does he need to be world champion?
a lot right now. Nous or maturity or experience or basically finding out how to beat Max Verstappen across these 58 laps. It's for Verstappen, he's in the prime position. He's on pole position. He's just got to do his job and win the race from the front. Hamilton, as we're standing right now, has a job to do. He has to find a way past a Dutchman who is notoriously difficult to pass, let alone today of all days. So Hamilton's got to try and judge this one right. Doesn't want to go too aggressive and risk a bit of contact or get tripped up by Lando Norris or Sergio Perez behind. He's got to just manage the race and make sure he's there near the end with a chance to attack Verstappen, and that's where a bit of race management is crucial.
We've just managed to squeeze our way through toward Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes. I'm just peering over the top of some of the fans and some of the engineers and the mechanics who are right there next to the car. We can see smoke just flying out of the back. Again, all of the cooling down that needs to happen. There are big computers, laptops being managed next to it as well. Jenny, how far apart are these two drivers? What is pole to P2?
7 metres traditionally is the distance from P1 to P2. They're so close together, but actually so far apart as well. And it's such a short... If we turn around and just look at the start line in front of us, at the end there's this large control tower with a flag flustering around in the top, and it's such a short straight down to that. It's less than 200 metres that they'll go a full tilt into that, and this is the moment everyone's talking about. Max Verstappen just waving to his fans. I don't know if you can hear the reaction. It's gone crazy.
Jack Nicholls, tactically, how is this race going to play out? Horrible question, but you are the commentator.
Thank you. Yes, it's going to be interesting. That's what. There's a few options, that, as Jolien was alluding to earlier. Verstappen will try and make a break and try and get away from Hamilton. If Hamilton can just stick with the back of Verstappen and stay on him, when Verstappen has to pit, in theory, earlier because he's got the softer tyres on, Hamilton will then want to extend and basically close him down in the closing stages of the race.
We have got so many celebrities around us as well. I've just seen Stormzy, who's having a couple of photographs with some fans. We're going to start weaving our way through the grid now. Now we've got a proper look at Lewis Hamilton's car with the beautiful black and green paint, the number 44 emblazoned on top of it. And if we look just past Lewis Hamilton's car, we'll see a bit of a surprise. Lewis Hamilton has behind him Lando Norris, the British driver, has done a fantastic job to be P3. And this week, Jenny's been speaking to him, not necessarily about his own race, but whether or not he's going to be able to keep an eye on what's going on in front of him.
I've loved it. Even as another driver, I've loved just watching it. I love to be part of it, but I'm not. They're quite different drivers, but both incredibly, incredibly good. And therefore, you get some of the races that you've got this season with the contact and things like this and how close the races have been. And I think that's been very exciting to watch, even just as another driver. I try and watch it on TV screens while I'm driving around the circuit sometimes. So.
Shows how boring some of your races are.
No, not how boring. I could be in the middle of a race coming up the inside of someone, but I'll still try and watch the race for first. So.
Your bandwidth, driver's bandwidth, you process so much all at the same time. It's so impressive.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. It's maybe not always the best decision. Maybe I shouldn't always be doing this, and maybe I make mistakes while doing it, but it's always nice to be watching the race for the lead.
Who do you think is going to take the championship?
Oh, don't do this.
I'm doing it. It's my job.
I obviously support Lewis, and he's been a guy I've looked up to since I was 5, 6, 7 years old. But I'm a closer friend to Max because I kind of grown up with him a little bit more and so on. And it would be nice to see someone different win a Formula One title. So I don't mind because it makes no difference to me or how I go about life or whatever. I'm really enjoying the battle. So the best man will win.
That's Lando Norris. Jenny, all of the drivers have now moved away from the grid just to the other side of the start line.
Yeah, they're getting ready to represent and respect the national anthem. It's something that they do in every race that we go to. It's a moment of calm, I suppose, before they get ready, get into the car, and then the noise really begins. But it's a sign of respect, really, and we'll see the Etihad jet come over us as well. It's quite a special feeling to be on this grid.
Yeah, and it's beautifully cool now as well. Once you actually get down to the track, all that heat disappears. There's a little breeze in the air as well. All of those big colourful flags that have been brought by the fans are really starting to move in the breeze. Just looking to the left then. Go Max go, says the one next to me. There's a couple for Hamilton, and now we'll have the national anthem of the UAE.
That is the national anthem, and a real wow moment as the jets fly over our heads and the colours of the flag here in Abu Dhabi fly over our head, and the wafts of smoke go over us. And I tell you what, we're joined by Emerson Fittipaldi, a man who was right at the centre of a battle just like this in 1974. And Emerson, what does it feel like when you're on the same points as your rival? You're lining up for a championship title. How tough is that?
You know, it's the worst pressure that the Formula One, the Grand Prix driver can feel, because you go to the last race of the year, equal points, and only one to be world champion. Forget what happened before. In 2 hours, you know who's going to be the world champion. I could not sleep the night before. I was McLaren and Claire Gazzoni, Ferrari, Watkins Glen, the US Grand Prix, and this is the maximum pressure. I'm sure Max and Lewis are under tremendous pressure. Mercedes team is under tremendous pressure. The sponsors, the family, it builds up for only 2 hours now. It's incredible. It could be the Grand Prix of the century today. Amazing to be here.
Tell me, do you think they can get away cleanly? Do you think they can beat the 58 laps of this race without coming together and crashing?
Well, first they have to finish to be able to finish first.
Yes.
And that's the name of the game. And that's, I'm sure Lewis is going to be extremely careful to finish the race. But now we have it with FIA, you can see if something goes wrong, they can judge. You have the telemetry. We have so much cameras. It's different from my time.
Yeah, it certainly is. Emerson, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you enjoy the race.
Top man Emerson, thank you very much. The Brazilian Emerson Fittipaldi. Right, let's see if we can wander around and grab a word with one or two of the really big names. If we could get the Red Bull team principal, Christian Horner, let's see if we can do that right now. He's wandering around just next to us here. He is the man who has led this Red Bull team. Christian, great to talk to us. What are your emotions right now?
I just want to get on with it, but yeah, look, we're excited to be here. It's been an epic year. These two drivers have been outstanding this year. They've been, you know, a step ahead of the rest of the field, and there's been some epic battles. So I'd like a really boring, straightforward race, but somehow I don't think we're going to get that.
I was listening to Fernando Alonso talking the other day about the way that Max is perceived versus the way Lewis is perceived. Do you think Max has had fair coverage? Do you think he's been given an accurate painting of his character?
Well, I think that since the summer break, they've been very, very strong, and I think that Max has kept us in this championship. The way he's driven, the way he's pushed.
Yeah. If you get it done today, what an incredible achievement it will be for the whole team. Do you feel underdogs? Because Mercedes, of course, have had this glorious era.
Well, they've been dominant for 7 years, and they're a hell of a team. And I think if we can pull off one of these trophies today, it would be amazing.
What was your last message to Max, Christian?
Enjoy it.
Nice one. Christian Horner, really appreciate it. Christian Horner, the boss of Red Bull. Yeah, Fernando Alonso was saying that he thinks everybody has been out to get Max Verstappen from a media standpoint as much as anything else. We are shortly going to be moving off the grid. We're just moving back to get a really close look at Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes as the fuel starts to go in, and we can see now the top of that brightly coloured helmet, a very clear message on top of it with the rainbow flag, and he just looks squat inside there, Jenny. It's amazing to think that car that he's in right now in the next hour and a half could be taking him to World Championship number 8.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine what it's like to be these drivers. They say they're calm, they're collected, they're cool, they don't feel the pressure, but how can you not feel the pressure? You know how significant this is. You know how important it is for your race to get a great start, to do all the procedures properly, for your team to do the best pit stop possible. This isn't just about Lewis versus Max, this is Red Bull versus Mercedes. The whole team has to be perfect today to be in with a chance of winning.
Yeah, Jack Nicholls, whoever doesn't win, we are going to hear about it, right? I mean, there's going to be no holds barred.
It's going to be... The stories of this season will continue to come out for years to come, I think. What really went on behind the scenes in Brazil, or with, you know, the Red Bull accusations of Mercedes' rear wing. And so many of these stories are yet to be fully told. It's almost like the race today, and whoever wins the title today will almost be the sort of halfway point in the story of the season and what we will then subsequently learn.
We're in the 10 minutes before the race, Jolyon. Here comes that question. Who do you think's going to win?
Oh, Formula One. Formula One's going to win, Steve. It's so hard to call. No, pipe down, Nicholls. It's really hard to call. My gut says Hamilton's going to find a way. Mercedes and race pace have been a little bit stronger. 58 laps for him to try and pass Verstappen. People have been, you know, umming and ahhing and flip-flopping from various
Jolyon, I'm just going to jump in there because, Jenny, we've heard from Christian Horner. Let's get the other side.
Yeah, Toto Wolff right at the start of the grid. I mean, how are you fit? I said you looked a little runkled this morning, a little creased. Do you feel a little creased, or do you feel absolutely fine ahead of this race?
Well, I had I never sleep bad, and it's easy, but this time it went until 3 or 3:30 in the morning, then I found my peace. But it's a privilege to be part of this fight and be there, and that's really great.
What frame of mind is Lewis in today?
Absolutely in the frame of mind to attack, to give it everything, and to just go forward.
He said yesterday he was happy with P2 because it meant he could see what Max is doing. How worried are you when the cars go down this 200-metre straight, when they go around these tracks 58 times, that they can keep it clean, that it's not going to end up in a barrier?
I'd rather be on pole, but we are not. We are in a good tyre. And that will be maybe a little bit difficult at the beginning to get it in the window, but that's okay. We just need to push. I believe in us.
Toto, one of the things I heard you say earlier this week is that you thought Lewis Hamilton would be in an angry mood. Is angry a good feeling to have inside you for a day like this? Is that what you need?
Well, I think angry wasn't maybe the right word. It's just concentrating on the task ahead and to give it everything.
The biggest question of all, Toto, before we let you go, it's what everyone across the world wants to know. Have you got a new headset after you smashed the old one up?
Yeah, I have another more robust one.
Toto Wolff, thank you so much. Best of luck to both of them. We've heard from Toto Wolff and Christian Horner. We're on the start line here of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We've got a helicopter now flying over the top of us. The smoke from the jets that flew overhead has only just cleared. It went from the colours of the Abu Dhabi flag, and the sort of blacks and the reds and the greens and the whites all merged together to form this almost toxic looking cloud. It has been, Jolyon, a toxic season off the track, but we all want it to be won right and on the track.
Everyone wants it to be won on the track at the checker flag with no decision from the stewards. We've had a few of them this year, couple of crashes, high profile crashes at Silverstone and Monza. Stewards investigations that didn't happen in Brazil. Many times the stewards had to intervene last week in Saudi. What we want is just a good, clean, fair fight, and may the best man win. And I think the teams and drivers right now want that as well.
Max Verstappen is in his car. He's just having one final handshake with his father, Jos Verstappen, of course, the former F1 driver. He's just been handed a big bag of ice to have inside that cockpit. I'm looking into his eyes, Jenny Gow, and that is a man who looks every bit as cool as he's purported to be all week. He looks like he's walking the walk here.
Yeah, 5 minutes until the race gets underway, and you can see he's got his visor up so you can see his eyes. The grid is clear of the VIPs now. The celebrities have gone. It's just the team, the car, the driver. And you can see here, it's Max Verstappen, and then on the right, Lewis Hamilton. These two people as we come off the grid, and the cheers for them. This is tribal, this is passionate, this is heartfelt.
I think those were the cheers for us leaving the grid because people were fed up with us. They've said, yeah, thank you very much, get out the way because it's almost time for the race. So we're now back walking the pit lane, and down here as we see the teams going through their final preparations, there's red and orange blinking light on the side of the Red Bull garage. I can see 10, 12, 15 tyres all lined up next to each other. We're going past now Max Verstappen's garage. These are the first two garages that the drivers see when they come into the pit lane. It's all set up because of the standings in the Constructors' title last season. So Mercedes right next to Red Bull. All the drivers are now in the cars, and the mechanics and the engineers are sprinting past us. They've got to get in position. If I look to my right, I can see some of the top guys at Mercedes. There's one guy that has 4 stopwatches, Jenny. That just tells you how detailed that they go into.
Yeah, this is a precise sport. It comes down to the minutiae. Peter Boddington has just walked past us. He's the race engineer for Lewis Hamilton. The nerves of the team, you can feel them. You could cut the tension right now with a carving knife.
And we've just spoken to Toto Wolff. He's now strolling past us. He is ready. He pumps his fist to the Mercedes fans who are above him in the stand and walks beneath the garage. It's go time. Let's go to Tynecastle and get the latest. Roddy Forsyth.
Half-time, Hearts-nil position, Hearts-nil, Rangers 2.
We have got 4 minutes to race time. Jolyon Palmer's already had the cruel question. Jenny Gow, now you get it. Lewis or Max?
Oh, look, I mean, you can't really separate the two. They've been so tremendous this year. Both of them, I feel, truly deserving of winning a world title. But for me, I think Lewis Hamilton has the momentum in sport. We talk about it a lot. And for him, he's won the last 3 races. He's faced adversity, massive adversity, getting punishments from the stewards, sent to the back of the grid. For me, he's the man best placed as I look at his car, ready to start, to win this Grand Prix and win the championship.
Jack Nicholls?
I think I'm sticking with Verstappen. I'm sticking with Verstappen.
That's it? Not going to give me any more there, Jack?
Oh, Steve, I've got to talk for like 2 hours in a minute. So, but no, I think Verstappen has just enough aggression to hold off Hamilton. I think, hopefully, fairly.
So it all comes down to this. The noise that the fans made has now just disappeared. The quiet is taking over, and the expectancy. The final mechanics and engineers have left trackside and they're heading into the pit lane. The big red lights are away to our right-hand side. When they go out, we're going to be underway and racing. This is what it's all about. We have got Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton going head to head. We are now going to move through the garage. We're right next to the bright green, beautiful safety cars. Hopefully, please, we won't need them later this race. As we nip now underneath the garages, you'll have much more from Jenny Gow over the course of the next hour and a half. But let's go to your commentary team for the big one. Nothing can be left. It all has to come out on the track. The former F1 driver for Renault, Jolyon Palmer, is with commentator Jack Nicholls.
And Steve, we've spent a lot of this season thinking, oh, is this one of the best Formula One seasons ever? 3 or 4 races in. There'd been incredible racing between Verstappen and Hamilton. Hamilton overtaking Verstappen right at the end in Bahrain. There was an incredible wet race in Imola. And in the early stages, you're thinking, this is a season for the ages. And it's just kept getting better and better and better until you can only reach the inevitable conclusion that this has been the most unbelievable season in the history of Formula One, and hopefully it's going to have a fitting ending. Whatever the outcome, it will be notable. Lewis Hamilton will either become the most successful Formula One driver of all time with 8 World Championship titles, or Max Verstappen will win his first of surely many Formula One World Championships. Whichever way it goes, Jolyon Palmer, it's going to be a big, big day.
And that's the fitting way to end a huge season of drama, twists and turns. Every time you think Red Bull get the momentum, Mercedes and Hamilton would fight back, and vice versa. The championship has swung around so often since that race in Bahrain. There was a thriller all the way back in March. The tension is palpable now. Cars firing up, and you can just feel it. This is the big one.
The last 5 Grand Prix, Hamilton and Verstappen have finished first and second. Verstappen ahead in 2 of them, Hamilton ahead in 3 of them, and whichever one finishes ahead today will become the 2021 Formula One World Champion. So, for the final time this season. It's 1 o'clock here on BBC Radio 5 Live. This, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The cars are making their way around to the grid then, a formation lap to get some temperature into their brakes, into their tyres, and it is Max Verstappen that will start on pole position. Hamilton alongside him on the front row. Lando Norris a superb third for McLaren ahead of the next Red Bull of Sergio Perez in fourth. Carlos Sainz is fifth for Ferrari. Valtteri Bottas a disappointing sixth for Mercedes. Charles Leclerc, Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon and Daniel Ricciardo are the rest of the top 10. Fernando Alonso is 11th. Gasly, Stroll, Giovinazzi, Vettel are the top 15. Latifi, Russell, Raikkonen and Schumacher, the 19 drivers. So the cars making their way around on the formation lap. Max Verstappen taking it nice and steady. Hamilton up behind him. And Verstappen goes past the huge Dutch grandstand, walking into the track earlier on. And there's a whole grandstand with thousands of people in. You can hear them cheering Verstappen as they come past. Every single one of them is dressed in orange. When I was there about 3 or 4 hours ago, they had the Dutch rock music blasting out of there. It was like being back on the beaches in Zandvoort earlier this year, just outside of Amsterdam. But there's plenty of Hamilton fans as well. It really is a cup final feeling.
Festival atmosphere across the whole track. 5 kilometres of circuit, a new layout for this year as well, which will provide a few unknowns. Where are going to be the overtaking areas? It may be into the new turn 5, a quicker left-hand hairpin, but then there's 2 long straights into turn 6, into turn 9 with DRS zones. One thing I think that is fairly sure is Max Verstappen needs to retain the lead at the end of lap 1, because it looks like on those soft tyres he's going to have the toughest strategy in that first stint.
Verstappen on pole is on the softs, Hamilton second on the mediums. The other drivers not on softs are Bottas in 6th on mediums, Tsunoda in 8th on mediums, Alonso and Gasly in 11th and 12th are on hards, and then everyone behind Gasly is on mediums, bar Mick Schumacher, who is 19th. Jos Verstappen is leaning with his arms up in the Red Bull pit garage, looking at the TV screen as his son lines up in pole position, Jenny Gow.
Yeah, the crowd on their feet, looking down, cheering on whichever of the 2 drivers they want to win this championship. And I have to say, the last 6 races have been won by the man starting in pole position.
The cars coming around the final corner to line up on the grid. It is just gone 5 o'clock here in Abu Dhabi. The sun still in the sky at the moment, but it's making its way down towards the horizon in the desert. And then eventually it'll end up being night. The floodlights will come on around the circuit. The Grand Prix will last round about an hour and a half without any interruptions, but we've had plenty of interruptions over the course of this year. What drama is going to unfold here in the final race of 2021? We'll keep you up to date with the football that kicks off in an hour or so. We've got live commentary later on this afternoon, but now it's the winner takes all race between Verstappen and Hamilton. Hamilton's on pole. Verstappen is on pole, Hamilton is second, and Hamilton gets a brilliant start, and Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the race. Unbelievable start from Hamilton, and he's into first place. Verstappen is down to second, Perez is up into third because Lando Norris has run wide, but Hamilton has got the best start. Hamilton has taken the lead, and Hamilton is in the position to win the World Championship, but we're only on the first lap. A long, long way to go, but that is an absolutely perfect getaway for the Mercedes driver. They swing through the left-hander and now at turn 5. Verstappen will try and drag up behind the back of Lewis Hamilton, and Hamilton starts weaving so that Verstappen doesn't get the slipstream, but Verstappen is closing in. They're coming down towards the chicane. How aggressive is Verstappen going to be? He sends it, and he's through, and Verstappen is back in front. Hamilton has to cut the corner. Who's going to come out in front of the 2 of them? It is Hamilton. Hamilton emerges in front, but he cut the chicane, and immediately on lap 1 the stewards have got something to look at.
It was always going to happen, wasn't it? End of the long straight.
Yes, he gave that back.
Verstappen saying he has to give that back, and I feel like Hamilton is backing off
to get back towards Verstappen, or is he just trying to be close enough to Verstappen to say he didn't gain an advantage? Hamilton leads, Verstappen second, Perez third.
I think unlike last week, Verstappen kept it on the track just to complete the move. I think this time Hamilton may well have to give it back. It was a lunge from Verstappen, but it was an inevitable lunge as he slipstreamed up behind the Mercedes into that turn 6 braking area. Lewis left the inside open. He tried to cover it a little bit late.
Push me off track. Yeah, copy. We're happy with the gap that you've reinstated.
Hamilton saying Verstappen pushed me off the track. Can you believe it's happened immediately on lap 1?
We'll need a replay, but I think that might have been a legitimate move for Max. He just about kept it on the track, and in that case, Lewis kept the position by running wide. Stewards are straight into this, aren't they? It was a brilliant start from Hamilton on the medium tyres. The one thing I said before the start, Verstappen needs to lead at the end of lap 1, and Hamilton got the start, got the jump, even though he was on the theoretically less grippy tyres. Verstappen came back at him, and as it stands, Hamilton retains the lead by crossing the chicane, but I'm not sure if that was a legitimate way to hold the position.
The rest of the top 10 behind Hamilton and Verstappen is Perez third, Sainz fourth, Norris fifth, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Bottas, Ocon and Ricciardo the top 10. Alonso, Gasly, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Vettel the top 15. Latifi, Raikkonen, Schumacher and Russell, the 19 drivers. Verstappen sent it in from a long, long way away, and Verstappen kept it on the track.
And that's the crucial thing. In Jeddah, he didn't keep it on the track. He ran wide, therefore it's not a legitimate pass. The same in Brazil. It wasn't a legitimate pass, but he got away with it. Here, I think it's a great move. I think it's a really good move. On the first lap, you never know how deep you can go on the brakes. You don't want to lock up and get it all wrong, but he kept it on the track. Looked good.
No investigation necessary between Hamilton and Verstappen. The stewards say no investigation necessary with that overtake. So Hamilton has the lead after Verstappen just overtook him at the first at that chicane. That's a very strange decision.
That's a harsh one, I think, for Max. I think that's a really harsh one. He sent it. It was a lunge, sure. It was a lunge, but he got the car stopped and made the corner. It's a pass on track. If the guy on the outside is just going to cut the corner at that point, you're never going to pass him. So he came from a fair way back. That's maybe what the FIA are thinking.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
So I've just seen it again. Max is ahead at the apex.
Jonathan
stays on the track.
Jonathan, he's forced him out there. That's why we asked him to give back
Lewis
all
has
of the advantage.
left the track, and you told him to give back all the advantage.
All the advantage was already given back prior to the first lap ending.
I'm not sure we agree, but understood.
No problems.
So the FIA are saying that Verstappen forced Hamilton off the circuit, so he had to cut the corner, and then he backed off so that Verstappen was back behind him but not ahead of him, and that is fair. But I see where the FIA are coming from on that one, because Hamilton has been forced off the road when Verstappen has made the move, but equally it was a decent move from Verstappen. I don't know.
Okay, mate, so just get your head down. No investigation on the shortcuts or the advantage that he's gained in terms of gaps. So let's just get on with this and win it on track.
That is incredible. What are they doing here?
I think it's a harsh one. I think that's a good old-fashioned lunge from Verstappen. Now, if he got it wrong and gone right off the track himself in an out-of-control manner, then fine. But he managed to keep it on the track. I think it's a good old school lunge, and Lewis cut the corner. Fine. Yes, maybe he was forced wide there, but there was a car lunging it in on the inside that managed to keep it on the track. I think that's sort of a decent move from Verstappen. The FIA obviously disagree. They think Hamilton had nowhere to go, and it's play on. But it's obviously worked very nicely in Hamilton's favour.
Lap 4 of 58. Lewis Hamilton leads the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and as it stands will win the World Championship. He's 1.6 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen in second place. Third is Sergio Perez. Fourth is Carlos Sainz. Fifth is Lando Norris, who's having quite a good fight with Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. Tsunoda's seventh. Bottas dropped a couple of places and is now eighth. Ocon and Ricciardo are the top 10. Alonso, Gasly, Giovinazzi, Stroll and Vettel the top 15. Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher and Russell the 19 drivers. Verstappen got the worst start on the grid.
Hamilton's reaction time was so much better than Verstappen's. As the lights went out, Lewis just jumped away from his start box much quicker. and then got the acceleration and went through it as well. We get another shot of that overtake. I like it. I think it's a nice move. I think it's good, old school, aggressive driving. He's gone for it, but he's kept it on the track legitimately. I think it looks like a nice move. That's what racing used to be.
That's what an overtake is. That's just an overtake from Verstappen. I mean, Hamilton has had to get out of it and get out of the way, but Verstappen made the move stick.
I think
really
Lewis was coming across in the braking zone a little bit as well, moving from the outside towards the inside. I think that's a good old school on the brakes, last of the late breakers, didn't lock up, under control, got the car stopped just about on the track, but on the track. Looks okay for me, but my opinion doesn't matter. It didn't look okay for the FIA. Michael Massey waving play on, and Hamilton leads now by 2 seconds.
Lap 5 of 58. Hamilton leading, Verstappen second. That's the former Renault F1 driver, Jolyon Palmer, alongside me, Jack Nicholls. Down in the pit lane is Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just looking at strategy, of course, the two drivers at the front of the field started on different tyres. Max Verstappen on the softest tyre. Now, he'll want to get to around lap 15, if he can, before he comes into pit. On the medium tyre, you want to get to at least lap 19. But the longer you can go at this stage on either tyre means the better it'll be for you as the cars come past and the fans stand up and wave their flags. Yeah, you want to make it as deep into this race as you can before you switch onto the hard tyre, which is what we're expecting almost everybody to do.
Lap 6 of 58 at the moment. Hamilton's lead is now up to 2 seconds over Max Verstappen. Perez is third, Sainz is fourth, Norris is fifth. Hamilton on the medium tyre, Verstappen and Perez behind on the softs. Now, the one thing that can play into the advantage of the Red Bulls here is that Verstappen is second and Perez is third. Perez is relatively staying with the top two at the moment, so they have a sort of potential pincer ability with Lewis Hamilton. If the Red Bulls can do something different with Sergio Perez to either get him ahead of Hamilton or leave him out when Hamilton pits, or they do have options with the other Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas, in his final race for the team, down in 8th spot.
Yeah, Bottas didn't have a good start on his medium tyres from 6th on the grid. So it is Hamilton out front from the two Red Bulls. There's a big gap now appearing between Perez in 3rd and Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari in 4th. That's already over 5 seconds. But what Red Bull need is bigger gaps to form so they can think about pitting and trying to undercut Hamilton's Mercedes at some point. At the moment, Hamilton is on the medium tyres. It's maybe the better tyre as with the more we go into the race. It should degrade less, be better at the end of the stint. So this is the time really where Red Bull needs to be putting the hammer down.
The two Aston Martins are squabbling over 14th place. Vettel almost into the back of Lance Stroll, coming into the chicane at 6 and 7. But Hamilton leads 2.1 seconds ahead of Verstappen in 2nd position. Perez in 3rd, 5 seconds back.
Go ahead. Michael, we still don't understand it. That was a hard, aggressive pass by Max, but Max stayed fully on the track and he was ahead at the apex. He did everything right. He stayed on the track. At some point, the second car has to back out.
Jonathan, the stewards have reviewed it and determined that all of the lasting advantage was gained, and that Max forced that position there. So they've said that they have reviewed it but are not investigating it.
That's Jonathan Wheatley, who's the sporting director at Red Bull, not the team principal, but the guy who sort of looks after the team, and he's arguing with Michael Massey, the race director. And
Daniel Ricciardo earned a reputation from doing those moves in the Red Bull car in recent years. He earned a reputation for being last at the late breakers, sending a lunge, smoke it in, sometimes all locked up, but keeping it on the track. And it was the skill of the driver there to do that, to be able to brake so late and not just run straight off the track. And that's where Max has come unstuck in recent races. In Saudi, he did it a couple of times, just going off the track, and one of the times was forcing Lewis with him. In Brazil, he went miles off track and forced Lewis with him, and it was contentious. And in Brazil, it was allowed. In Saudi, it wasn't. In my opinion, neither of them should have been allowed because he didn't stay on the track. This time, he's gone in super deep. It's an aggressive attempt, but he has kept it on the track, and that's the critical part. That's how you make an overtake.
But that's the thing I can't get my head around. That is how you make an overtake.
If Ricciardo had done all his lunges back in the day and everyone had just cut the corner to stay ahead, what's the point? What's the point? So it's a tough one for the stewards because Hamilton kind of had to back out of it, but Max was clean down the inside at that point. Lewis could have covered the inside to stop him going there. He didn't. He left the door open.
You knew as the slipstream was coming, Verstappen was gathering momentum, he was going to go for it. He was always going to go for it. On the soft tyres, he had to be leading end of lap 1, and he went for it, but he got it stopped, and I think it was okay. Hamilton maybe had to back out or cede the position.
Christian Horner said that he's a little bit shocked. He didn't see Lewis give the advantage back, and a total lack of consistency. Which, well, lap 8 of 58. We'll see what happens in the remainder of this Grand Prix, but that is certainly going to be a topic. 2.3 seconds Hamilton ahead of Verstappen, now 2.4 seconds, so Hamilton is going quicker than Verstappen at the moment by 1/10 of a second on that last lap. Jenny?
Yeah, just on the stewards, there are 4 men sitting around a table with all the telemetry, with all the details, with screens in front of them. This weekend, they are Gary Connolly. He's been in charge of the last 3 races as far as stewards are concerned. Felix Holter, Derek Warwick, who was on BBC BBC Breakfast this morning talking to me, and Mohammed Al-Hamza. And they were saying that the last thing they wanted to do was have to get involved with a stewarding decision that could change the face of this race. But by not getting involved, not wanting to investigate or not feeling the need to, have they unintentionally got involved with the course of this race?
Well, undoubtedly. Lap 9 of 58. Hamilton's lead 2.4 seconds still over Verstappen. Verstappen saying the rear tyres are starting to struggle a little bit as he tries to keep pace with Hamilton. He's on the soft tyre, Hamilton on the medium, so in theory the Mercedes will be able to go longer on this set of tyres. So Hamilton now leads the Grand Prix and has the, in theory, best strategy at the moment. So the pressure now is all on Red Bull to try and get ahead of Hamilton somehow if they want Verstappen to win the championship.
The tables turned very quickly, didn't they? It was going to be Hamilton has 58 laps to try and pass Verstappen. He did it in about, 50 metres? Down to turn 1. Then the contentious moment, halfway around the first lap at turn 6. Verstappen lunged it in. Hamilton kept the place by going off track. And now we are getting through the laps. We're on lap 8 of a 58-lap Grand Prix. And now Verstappen, if he wants to be champion, has to try and find a way past Lewis Hamilton to win the race at this point. 2.7 seconds is the gap, but Verstappen's also on the soft tyre. It's the less preferable tyre at this point because he had the lock-up in qualifying, struggling a little bit with the rears overheating now. That is the nature of a soft tyre compared to a medium tyre, which is just a little bit more durable, can take the temperature spike slightly more, and Hamilton's just starting to stretch away.
Lap 10 of 58 here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Lewis Hamilton leads the Grand Prix. Verstappen second, Perez third, Sainz fourth, Norris fifth, sixth for Charles Leclerc, seventh Yuki Tsunoda, eighth Valtteri Bottas, ninth Esteban Ocon, and Daniel Ricciardo completes the top 10 as Hamilton now makes his way down towards turn 9 into the long left-hander, and then Verstappen will follow him through just a couple of seconds later as he tries to stick with Hamilton. Now they're starting to open up the gap in which Hamilton can make a pit stop and come out, or Verstappen can make a pit stop and come out in clear air ahead of Carlos Sainz, who's running in 4th position at the moment. Lap 10 of 58 though, and it's just going to be very interesting to see what happens now strategically. Do Red Bull need to try and undercut Hamilton here, come into the pits, put on fresher tyres and take advantage of that and get ahead of the Mercedes when it pits, or is that not possible from this point? What is the game plan now?
How can they use Sergio Perez to do something? Perez is 7 seconds away from Hamilton. It's equidistant. Hamilton 3.5 seconds ahead of Verstappen at the lead of the race. Then Verstappen 3.5 seconds ahead of Perez, who's still there and he's on the same tyres as his teammate. The 2 Red Bulls are on the soft. Can they use Perez to do a big undercut and force Hamilton to pit very early? The undercut is going to be the way to go because they can't really do anything else on those soft tyres. They're going to give up before Hamilton's mediums, but they can't pit yet to go for an undercut because they don't have the gap and they'll come out into traffic of everyone else who hasn't pitted. No one in the field, the 19 drivers, no one's pitted yet.
Indeed, lap 11 of 58. We're getting more replays of that incident. I can see where the stewards are coming from. I can see where it's not dissimilar to sort of when Rosberg overtook Hamilton in Austria. but it was intentional that time from Rosberg. He just sort of didn't turn in the corner and ran him straight.
It's a great lap, Lewis. Just keep it up. Just keep the pressure on.
Pete Bonington telling Hamilton these are great laps, and now the gap is up to 4.3 seconds on this lap. So that's impressive stuff from Lewis Hamilton. He sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We'll have second half commentary from Leicester later on, and we can get the team news now with Colin McNamara.
Yes, and none of the 7 players who didn't travel to Napoli on Thursday with Leicester due to their COVID situation are involved today. There are 2 changes. Thomas comes in at left back and Daka starts up front. It means Jamie Vardy is on the bench. Newcastle, who got their first win of the season home to Burnley last Saturday, no surprise they are unchanged.
Thank you. That was actually Colin's brother Connor on that one. So we can also get team news from Mike Minay.
3 changes for Sean Dyche's Burnley, who can escape the relegation zone with a win. Cornet's thigh still problematic. Collins and Westwood also replaced. In come Mee, Cork and Rodriguez. As for West Ham, a positive result can see them create a gap between 4th and 5th. 2 changes, Zuma and Johnson out. Masuaku and Benrahma come in.
Thank you, Mike. And an update on the Rangers game. Roddy Forsyth.
Yes, indeed. Hearts 0, Rangers 2. Rangers looking to stay 7 points, or go 7 points clear of Celtic ahead of their 3 o'clock kickoff. And they're in that position because they've scored with their only 2 shots on goal, and that was from Alfredo Morelos and Joe Aribo in the first half. Since then, they've looked comfortable. Hearts 0, Rangers 2.
Thank you very much, Roddy. Lap 12 of 58 here on 5 Live. This is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and Lewis Hamilton took the lead off the line. Verstappen tried to get back at him, overtook him coming down into the chicane at turns 6 and 7, forced his way through. Hamilton cut the corner to stay ahead, and the stewards have decided that is okay. Verstappen is now really struggling with his tyres, I think. On that last lap, he was 0.7 of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton. The gap is up to 5.1 seconds. Verstappen was actually slower than his teammate Sergio Perez on that last lap. So the pace is slipping away from Max Verstappen a little bit, Jolyon Palmer.
He's struggling a lot now. It was a second the previous lap. It's the soft tyres that are giving up now. Maybe a bit of frustration under the helmet for Max, who feels hard done by, absolutely, by that lap 1 call. That's in the past now. That's not going to change. 5.5 seconds, Hamilton just stretching away on the preferred strategy. The game plan that Red Bull had and Verstappen, it had to rely on Max keeping the lead at the start, because these soft tyres were going to make him vulnerable through the race. If you then lose the track position at the start, it was going to be big trouble, and that's basically where Red Bull find themselves in now. It looks at this point like they need some sort of external intervention, because they're just dropping back at a fast rate. They still can't really pit because they're going to fall into traffic. Maybe they'll have to soon, because it's just dropping away quicker than they would even have expected. I think at this point it's looking bad. Even though Bottas is down in 8th place and can't help Hamilton out, Hamilton doesn't need the help at this stage.
Lando, we keep losing gears. This might continue to happen.
So Lando Norris started 3rd on the grid after a superb qualifying. He's dropped back down to 5th position, but the team saying we are losing gears. Now Verstappen comes into the pits. Max Verstappen pits from 2nd place. The soft tyres will be coming off, Jenny Gow.
Yeah, so he swings into his pit box. 22 people lift the car up just a couple of inches. He puts on a brand new set of hard tyres, flashes past me, and out the Red Bull of Max Verstappen goes.
2.1 seconds for Verstappen. He's going to come out in a bit of traffic here, so this is an interesting move from Red Bull to pit him this early. He might just get out in front of... No, he's not. He's coming out in an absolute nightmare of traffic here, Max Verstappen, and having to take evasive action there was the Ferrari, I think, of Charles Leclerc. So Charles Leclerc was coming through. He had to take evasive action as Verstappen exited the pit lane before the two collided. Now Verstappen is a second behind Norris. He's then got 4 seconds to Carlos Sainz, so Verstappen emerges in 5th place. That's a really early move for Red Bull. Verstappen now gets past Norris quite quickly, but it's not perfect, that.
Well, he's got a bit of clear air now. He's actually cleared Norris very quickly. He's up into 4th. Carlos Sainz is ahead 4 seconds.
Okay, so box.
And so Hamilton is just going to cover off Verstappen here. Hamilton in the lead of the Grand Prix is going to pit to cover off Verstappen. Now I guess they'll then leave Sergio Perez out for a bit.
Exactly. Can Perez do something? That's going to leave him in the lead of the race. Hamilton comes in mediums to hards. It's a good stop for Mercedes. 2.4 seconds, that's plenty enough to keep him ahead of Verstappen, who's in 4th. Perez goes through to lead, and can he somehow medal in this race that Bottas isn't able to? Verstappen's pitted and come out ahead of Bottas. Hamilton is going to emerge, I think, ahead of Carlos Sainz here. It's going to be tight, and then ahead of Verstappen, but he's got a Red Bull ahead of him.
So Lewis Hamilton rejoins the racetrack now. He's in 2nd place, but all that matters for him is that he is ahead of Max Verstappen, who has pitted and is in 4th position. Carlos Sainz is in between them and has yet to pit. Now they're going to be on similarly aged tyres as well. So this will be Verstappen's opportunity on same tyres to try and close in. Oh, Leclerc, I thought he was sort of taking evasive action to get out of the way, but he was losing it through the right-hander of turn 3.
He had a huge oversteer. It's a very fast corner. You go over a small crest flat out through 2, then through a long arcing right-hander of turn 3, and he had an oversteer as Verstappen was coming out of the pits, and he just shot off the background of our screen as we were watching Verstappen exit the pits. Leclerc's Ferrari went off to the left, really high speed, brought it back on. He lost the place to Yuki Tsunoda, but he's immediately got it back again. They're having a bit of a tussle still.
Yeah, Tsunoda's trying to get back past him to the outside.
Hamilton's pitted. Plan A. Correction. Plan B. Plan B.
So Perez being told to do plan B, which is presumably stay out there. Tsunoda has got back ahead of Leclerc, and Leclerc is now under pressure from Valtteri Bottas. There's just a 1/10 of a second between them as they come down into the tight right-hander of turn 12. Laps 16 and 58, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, final race of the season, here on BBC Radio 5 Live. Jolyon Hunt.
So Hamilton and Verstappen, they're the only two in the field to have pitted, along with 19th and last place driver Mick Schumacher. They've got a long way to go on these hard tyres. Can Sergio Perez hold Hamilton back? There's 10 seconds now between the race leader, the Mexican Sergio Perez, in the Red Bull, who hasn't pitted, and Lewis Hamilton, who is in the net lead of the race because he has pitted. There's 10 seconds. There's still 5 seconds and the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz between Hamilton and Verstappen. Can Perez do a job now for his teammate? Just get his elbows out and make life hard for Hamilton, if Hamilton, or when Hamilton catches him, because that can bring Verstappen back into this fight now. The strategy is negated of the soft and medium tyre offset from the start. They're now both on the hard tyres, and it maybe brings into play a sort of last ditch option of a second stop as well for Verstappen, because those hards have got a long way to go to get to the end of 58 laps.
I think it's also fair to say at this point that both teams are probably willing to sacrifice a little bit of performance from their second drivers. So Sergio Perez for Red Bull, Valtteri Bottas for Mercedes. Yes, the Constructors' Championship is still up for grabs, but their main concern is to try and beat the other team's main driver. So whatever Perez and Bottas need to do, they will do, I'm 100% sure.
The problem for Perez is Hamilton comes across the line and goes almost 2 seconds faster than him. The gap is down to 8.6 seconds now between Perez in the lead, who hasn't pitted, and Hamilton in second, who has. If he's 2 seconds a lap quicker, by the time he catches him, Perez will have no chance to try and fight him.
Could be very difficult. Verstappen's had a big slide, took a bit too much at the apex of the penultimate corner, turn 15, which sent him wide. He's trying to pass Carlos Sainz now for 3rd position, but he's, with that mistake, he might have to wait another lap. Comes out of turn 5 and just about gets the DRS to attack the Ferrari, so just about within the 1 second, and now he can look to take that 3rd place back. But a bit of a moment there for Max.
The sound you can hear is Verstappen onto the brakes, down through the gears into the tight, slow left-hander at turn 6, a little right-hander at turn 7, and then on the power again, up through the gears and up to 200 miles an hour to try and overtake the Spaniard Carlos Sainz, who's in 3rd place in the Ferrari. Should be doable here, I think. Oh, he's a little too far back, actually, Verstappen, coming into turn 9, so he can't get past Sainz yet, and this is costing him, because Sainz on the last lap was over a second slower than Hamilton, a 29.5 for Sainz, a 27.8 for Hamilton.
Well, Sainz is on those soft tyres, the same as Verstappen was, and the same that Perez is. So if Sainz can hold Verstappen back a little bit, then Perez can maybe hold Hamilton back a little bit. But right now, it's costing Verstappen quite a lot. Hamilton comes through and does the fastest lap of the race, 2.2 seconds quicker than Sergio Perez. And as Sainz and Verstappen flash past, Verstappen's lost a second and a half on this lap alone to Lewis Hamilton. The gap now is 8 seconds between the two.
It's only 6 seconds between Perez and Hamilton in the sort of battle in inverted commas for 1st position, but Perez is yet to pit. Lando Norris comes into the pit lane for McLaren. He puts on a set of hard tyres and rejoins the fray. Verstappen is pretty close this time to the back of Carlos Sainz as they come out of the left-hander of turn 5, and Verstappen should be able to get this move made coming down into the chicane this time. Fighting over third place, Verstappen closing in. Sainz covers the inside but knows he's got no answer to Verstappen, who's on the brakes, through the left, through the right, and on his way. Perez leads, yet to stop. Hamilton second, 5 seconds back, and then it's 8 seconds now from Hamilton in second to Verstappen in third. And although Sainz is coming back at Verstappen here, looks to the outside, but I think he's not going to be too fussed about getting involved in that fight. His race isn't with Verstappen, and he'll just cost himself time, Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, Sainz on those soft tyres now that have done 18 laps in the Grand Prix, plus some in qualifying. So he's going to be looking for a pit stop probably quite soon. A lot of the other midfielders have now pitted as well. Lando Norris came in and Charles Leclerc came in, and they were having a little tussle just behind Sainz. So that might be the cue for Sainz to make a pit stop to cover his track position. But it doesn't matter now because Verstappen is through and can set about trying to catch Lewis Hamilton, whilst Hamilton is now getting very close to the back of Sergio Perez for the lead. 3.2 seconds the gap. They signed him for this year, Sergio Perez. They've retained him for next year. Can he do anything to help his teammate out? It's going to be really tricky on these soft tyres. He's losing a huge amount of pace on them.
Almost 3 seconds on that last lap. It's a 1 minute 30.588 for Sergio Perez, unless potentially he is sort of conserving the tyres at the moment, so he has something to fight Lewis Hamilton with when Hamilton arrives. Lap 19 of 58. Ricciardo now pits from 10th position, and he is going to emerge behind his teammate Lando Norris. But Perez leads with Hamilton closing in, and we haven't had a look yet at Verstappen's pace in clear air because he overtook Carlos Sainz on that last lap. So we'll see what he does this time around. Lap 19 of 58. Hamilton almost right on the back of Perez.
Okay, we'll be looking to hold up Lewis. I think Perez best to do that. Just 2 seconds.
I think Perez is going to really struggle to hold Hamilton here. They had a great fight in Turkey a few races ago. Perez did a brilliant job for the team holding Hamilton behind, but Perez is on 21 lap old soft tyres. Lewis Hamilton is on 5 lap old hard tyres. This should be straightforward for Hamilton, shouldn't it?
Should be. It's a tense moment though. This is where the race can go wrong, trying to pass for position the teammate of your main rival, but Perez has got no pace. This is going to be, I think, straightforward with the DRS here.
Down towards turn 5 they come. Hamilton sends it in deep, swings through the left-hander. He's going to get the DRS on the next straight, and Sergio Perez, who is in front of Hamilton at the moment, but he's not going to have any answer, I don't think, for the British driver. Hamilton opens the DRS, goes to the inside, gets side by side with Perez. Perez sends the switchback late in the day up the inside into turn 6, and he holds the place for the time being. Hamilton tries to get back around past him and gets a really good drive out of turn 6 and 7, Lewis Hamilton, and takes the lead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. But Perez is going to have the DRS this time as they now run down towards turn 9. Perez goes to the inside. They might have a bit of contact there almost, and Perez is back in front. Brilliant defensive driving from the Mexican. He holds the lead of the race, but Hamilton has just got so much more grip and traction. It's going to be a matter of time, surely, but that's wonderful stuff from Perez.
It's exquisite defensive driving.
Okay, back him up, back him up.
Back him up now is the message to Perez, and he's defending at every possible corner. This is really great stuff from Sergio Perez in his first year with Red Bull.
I think he's purposefully slowing down around the hotel section in the final sector because Hamilton is going to struggle to find a way around there. He might here though.
Hamilton to the outside coming down into turn 1. Perez covers the inside. He's late on the brakes. Hamilton then gets the cutback coming out of turn 1. They're going to go side by side in towards 2. No, Hamilton tucks back behind the Red Bull all of the time. Max Verstappen is closing. He's now less than 3 seconds behind them.
Dangerous around here.
Hamilton saying Perez is driving dangerously. Thought about sending it into turn 5, Lewis Hamilton, but he wasn't quite close enough. Surely this time he's going to get the move made as they come down the straight towards the chicane. Hamilton to the outside, and Verstappen is
with them. Is Perez going to send it on a lunge again, coming down into turn 6 and 7? Perez to the outside, late on the brakes, but Hamilton finally gets the job done, because Perez, though, will have DRS on the next run. But all of this means that Max Verstappen is less than 2 seconds behind Hamilton now. Hamilton leads the Grand Prix, but Verstappen is coming right with him. Perez surely this time will move over, let his teammate through. Absolutely exceptional work from Perez.
Back up, back DRS.
Unbelievable. That's driver of the season from Perez. That was marvellous.
That's teamwork as far as you can possibly go. Sacrifice everything to get your teammate back in the race. What Hamilton was saying is this is dangerous, because Perez was purposefully backing off.
Oh, Checo is a legend.
Absolute animal.
Verstappen saying Checo, which is Sergio Perez's nickname, is a legend.
He has just driven a wonderful lap and a half on shod soft tyres, throwing everything at it to keep Hamilton at bay. Hamilton, he just couldn't afford to get in that mix there. He couldn't afford to stick a nose in on a Red Bull driver that was just going to do everything he could to throw him off. Perez just backed off around the hotel section. Hamilton was crawling all over him, nearly around the outside, through a corner I've never seen an overtake on in turn 13 around the hotel. Perez was so slow on that lap, 5 seconds off, because he was just A, fighting, and B, trying to back Hamilton up. But hey, Hamilton's done that himself back in 2016. He was trying to back up Nico Rosberg for the championship. That's what happens when you get down to these final races. And Perez has done a job for his team beautifully to bring Verstappen back into contention.
So Hamilton leads the Grand Prix 1.7 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. They come across the line now. It's now up to 1.9 seconds, because this is going to be the ultimate question. Is, over the course of the season, Mercedes in general have had a quicker car in the race as an overall rule of thumb. Is that going to be the case here? Verstappen is back to within 2 seconds of Hamilton, lap 22 of 58. But if Hamilton and Mercedes are just quicker for the remainder of the Grand Prix, then Verstappen is not going to have an answer. But they are absolutely neck and neck on this lap so far, albeit Hamilton maybe just nibbling away a couple of tenths, extending his advantage. Yuki Tsunoda is third, he's yet to stop. Fourth is Valtteri Bottas. Fifth is Sergio Perez. And then it is Alonso, Gasly, the other drivers who have yet to pit. This is lap 23 of 58, the final Grand Prix of the season in Abu Dhabi on BBC Radio 5 Live. Jolyon Palmer, myself, Jack Nicholls, and Jenny Gow with you.
And I tell you what, there might have been a lot of orange dressed people in the grandstand opposite me in the pit lane. We thought it was more, but actually, with that beautiful dueling, the Hamilton fans made their voices heard. Perez, beautiful driving. There is a Mexican section here tonight, and they were jumping around. But what a great battle between Hamilton and Perez once again.
Hamilton's looking strong on pace, though, isn't he? He's okay, we're sort of in the early stages of this second half of the Grand Prix, not quite into the second half yet, but Hamilton looks pretty comfortable.
Yeah, he's just done another lap, 3 tenths quicker than Verstappen, but that was Verstappen's best lap of the race so far. The top two, back into the top two positions. Perez pitted immediately after his heroics, after his job was done, came in for the new tyres that he desperately needed, and he's now dropped to 5th behind Valtteri Bottas, and Yuki Tsunoda, the AlphaTauri driver, still out there in 3rd, who hasn't stopped.
And Bottas just can't get past Yuki Tsunoda. They're right together on circuit, coming through the left-hander of turn 9, but Bottas just has no answer to the Japanese racer, who's had a up and down season, predominantly with downs, but he's really got it hooked up in this final weekend. Hamilton sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 2.5 seconds ahead now of Max Verstappen.
So we're going to the end. We're looking what we can do to help Max. So consider plan A for now. Consider plan A for now. Let's push on.
So Perez being told we're going to the end. Bottas gets ahead of Tsunoda because Tsunoda pits. Hamilton leads. Verstappen second. Both have made a pit stop. Bottas in 3rd has yet to stop, but is not involved in the fight at all because he's 20 seconds back. Perez is 4th in the Red Bull. So what happens now, Jolyon Palmer?
Just a bit of a flat-out race at the front. Hamilton with the fastest lap on the last, half a second quicker than Verstappen. He looks like he's got really good pace in the Mercedes. It's not a huge surprise. Their race pace has been strong, particularly the second half of the season, and it's the qualifying that Verstappen has been able to match the Mercedes in recent races, but that's led us to the crucial incidents, particularly last time out in Saudi, This time Hamilton has track position. If he keeps the pace up, what can Red Bull do? Hamilton could probably get to the end on the hard tyres, even if they maybe will start to struggle slightly more at the end. It's not a high degradation circuit like we've seen at some others, Bahrain or Barcelona's at the start of the year. This one, the hard tyres should be fairly durable and should go the distance. So Red Bull have got to rely on a bit of pace. And I'm not quite sure when there's talking to Sergio Perez now in fourth with Tsunoda's pit stop, saying we're looking at how we can help Max anymore. Don't know how that's going to happen. He's 28 seconds off the leader. Don't think the leader's going to be pitting. Perez might have he's done a cracking job, a really good job for the team, but with Hamilton coming through, I think it might just be Hamilton and Verstappen now at the front. The teammates are out of contention.
Do you know what Max Verstappen needs if he's going to have a good shot of winning this race? He so desperately needs a safety car or something to just come into the mix to shake things up. But I tell you, I had a briefing with one of the engineers ahead of this race, and the safety car probability, they said, was low. It's the first time for 7 races that he said they had a low probability of a safety car, but that, or a miracle, is I think what Max needs.
Certainly looking that way at the moment. Lap 25 of 58. Lewis Hamilton continues to lead the Grand Prix. 2.7 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen in second. Valtteri Bottas is third but has yet to pit. Perez is fourth, has pitted. Alonso is fifth, hasn't pitted. Sixth is Gasly, who's yet to pit. And then we have the rest of the pitters. Sainz, Norris, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Ocon, Ricciardo, the 12 drivers at the front of the order. Let's get an update from Roddy Forsyth. Roddy?
Haas nil, Rangers 2, 7 minutes to go, and Hart's job has become all the much harder because Ginelli has been sent off, second yellow card. Rangers leading by Aribo and Morelos goals. Stormy affair, 2-0.
Thank you, Roddy. We'll keep you updated with the football that's kicking off in about 20 minutes time, and then we'll have second half commentary here on 5 Live Sport this afternoon. Lewis Hamilton is leading the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix though at the moment. He is 2.9 seconds now ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second place. There's a yellow flag out there, so maybe, I think it's Kimi Räikkönen at turn 6. So Kimi Räikkönen is in a bit of trouble at turn 6. We'll see whether he's able to get going again.
Michael, it's a bit dangerous. Can you warn them?
So far they're racing, Toto, hard racing.
So that was Toto Wolff complaining that the Perez defending was a bit too hard. Räikkönen has stopped at turn 6. This could be a safety car situation which could help Verstappen hugely, because he might even have a kind of free pit stop. And Räikkönen's got going again. Räikkönen has got going again in the Alfa Romeo. Green flags are out, so no need for a safety car. That would have been a real possibility there for Red Bull, but Räikkönen's back on his way. No visible. Maybe the front left of the wing is a bit damaged, of the front wing.
Yeah, he's hit the front wing, hasn't he, on something or someone. It's at a slight angle. He came to a stop at one of the overtaking places as well, turn 6. But he crucially got it going again, because if that was somewhere near the track at turn 6, I think it would have been a safety car.
Yeah, the brakes failed.
The brakes failed, says Kimi Räikkönen, in his last ever Formula 1 Grand Prix. And that might be him out of it. We're just about to get a replay of it. He's coming down towards turn 6, hits the brakes, and it doesn't stop, and locks the rears, sends it into a spin, and in the end a little nudge with the barrier, but could have been a lot worse than that.
Yep, as soon as he hit the brakes, it all just went to the rear and spun him around. So Kimi Räikkönen's last race in Formula 1 looks like it's about to come to a premature end. He's back in the pits now. It was just a tap with the barrier, quite a long way off. Rarely that you ever see someone find the barrier down at turn 6, but obviously a brake failure would mean that you cannot stop from a very high speed, around 200 miles per hour there.
George Russell is cruising as well in his last race for Williams. He's just gone straight on at turn 6 and 7.
Last drive. Yeah. Came over.
And he's got an engine problem and is going to be out of the Grand Prix. But again, that's not the sort of thing that'll cause a safety car. Hamilton's lead now up to 3.7 seconds over Max Verstappen. He was 0.6 of a second faster on that last lap. He is in control of this one at the moment.
He's got the pace. He's got the pace. He's got the track position. So things are looking good for Lewis at this stage. But we're not even halfway. And he's got the Red Bull still in the mirrors, 3.5 seconds. Verstappen's not out of this, but he needs something to happen to just give him a bit more of an edge. A safety car would do it, because I think he's got a free pit stop behind. Valtteri Bottas is 20 seconds away from Verstappen, and under safety car conditions, that would mean Max can pit, put on a new set of tyres, and keep the same position. And of course, Lewis, if he pits under safety car conditions, would lose the lead of the race to Max. So that's the sort of thing that can make a difference. And in this 2021 season, it's the sort of thing that's been happening to throw the races up. You can never take things at face value. Face value right now, I would say Hamilton's looking very good.
Lap 28 of 58. Hamilton's lead 3.8 seconds over Max Verstappen in second position. Then it's 24 seconds to Valtteri Bottas in third. Kimi Raikkonen jumps out of his Formula One car for the final time. Great career, Kimi Raikkonen, great character, world champion in 2007 with Ferrari, incredibly exciting in the early 2000s with Sauber, and then subsequently in particular with McLaren, and a fine career comes to an end.
What a sad way for him to bow out as well. A great character, been in Formula One 20 years, and out on lap 27 with a brake failure. Didn't Jenson Button have a retirement in 2016? It was a similar thing. Russell also looks like he's heading into retirement, but Jenson Button's 16-year career in Formula One was cut short in Abu Dhabi. Reliability's so good these days, but a couple of major retirements. And
David Coulthard's last race was fairly innocuous as well. Wiped out on the opening lap in Brazil in 2000 and something, 8, 7.
It's a long way for this tyre.
Copy.
So Hamilton's saying it's a long way for these tyres to last. They pitted obviously fairly early on because they were involved in their own little battle. Jenny, is that a fair concern for Hamilton?
I think it is a long way for it to go, but I don't think it's a fair concern. Sitting down with some of the engineers this morning, they reckon these tyres could last 50 laps. Now, he came in on lap 15 to change over on a 58-lap race, so I don't think there's a drama there, but he's the driver, he knows what he's feeling, although I have to say, we do hear a lot about Hamilton and his tyres in lots of races.
if there's one driver for some tyre jitters at the front of the race, it's Lewis Hamilton, traditionally. My tyres are gone, Bono. We're not there yet. They're hard tyre, very durable, but maybe that's something that Verstappen and Red Bull can think about. Just going for a second pit stop and risking basically nothing with that, because Bottas is well, he's got a pit, he's third anyway, but is almost the whole pit window behind. So even without a safety car, Verstappen can pit and be in second, and then just hope that something goes wrong with Hamilton's tyres. We've seen that a few times this year. Verstappen had a tyre failure from the lead in Baku in the closing stages. There were many tyre failures in Qatar just a couple of races ago. We're starting to get to the area where that's all Red Bull have left, because on race pace here, Hamilton has just done another fastest lap and he's stretching the lead again by over 0.4 of a second. Race pace, Red Bull don't have it, and track position, they don't have it either. It's looking good for Hamilton.
So as it stands, Hamilton will win the World Championship.
One more lap, over you.
It's Valtteri Bottas's radio, running in third place, 1.7 seconds ahead of Sergio Perez, but Bottas is still yet to pit, and so when he does, he'll come out quite a long way down the order, I think, Valtteri Bottas. Well, still behind Yuki Tsunoda, and everybody might be outside of the top 10 almost, Valtteri Bottas. So I'm not quite sure why he's sort of continuing to fall backwards.
Well, he's going to have a good tyre for the end of the race.
True.
Whilst we're talking about maybe Hamilton and Verstappen struggling at the end, it's the same for a lot of the midfielders that pitted early. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc pitted similar time. And Bottas, by going very long on the medium tyres that he qualified on yesterday, would have hoped to have qualified better than 6th and be in the fight at the front with Hamilton, Verstappen and a cameo from Sergio Perez. But his fight now is just to get as many points as he can for the team. Constructors' title still up for grabs. And if anything goes wrong with Hamilton's car, Red Bull are in for a 1-2, and it'll be a huge turn-up. So Mercedes still need to concentrate on Bottas maximising what they can. He'll be 10th if he pits, but there's 2 drivers that haven't pitted yet behind as well. Alonso 5th and Gasly 6th, who would need to come in presumably at a similar time.
Jenny.
Yeah, just listening across to some of the radio talk at Red Bull, and they've asked Max if he wants any different things from his front wing till the end of the race. That's going to be a chance for his second pit stop potentially that they're lining up. Bottas comes in, finally does his pit stop in the Mercedes. Off he goes again on the hard tyres under these lights that are now shining down. Darkness descends here in than Abu Dhabi. But yeah, sounds like Red Bull thinking about another pit stop for Max Verstappen.
It's their only choice, isn't it? Because at the moment it looks as though if they stay out on these hard tyres, Hamilton will just continue to drive away and win the Grand Prix.
4.2 seconds he's back from Hamilton. So if he does pit, then Hamilton can just cover him off on the next lap, provided the Mercedes team do another decent pit stop. And they've done many of them this season. They've just done one on Valtteri Bottas' car, who emerges in 9th place, in fact, just ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. But it's another area. It's not just the drivers today that are facing the pressure. Everyone on the in the pit crew, the strategists on the pit wall, there's a lot of it. And Red Bull throwing the dice, they might just sort of create an element of unknown for those on the Mercedes pit wall or the Mercedes pit crew.
Charles Leclerc's just locked up coming into turn 6 and 7, and that may allow Valtteri Bottas through into 8th place. Bottas, as Jolyon said, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, which is a move for position that have changed hands. Here comes Bottas trying to get Leclerc into turn 9, but somehow he, with the DRS and fresher tyres and Leclerc making a mistake at 6 and 7, Bottas couldn't find his way past. Hamilton on that last lap took another half a second out of Max Verstappen. So Hamilton's lead is now 5 seconds at the front of the field. It's so comfortable for him at the moment. Verstappen second, Perez third, Alonso fourth has yet to pit, Gasly fifth has yet to pit, and it's Sainz, Norris, Leclerc, Bottas, Tsunoda, the top 10 here on BBC Radio 5 Live. The season finale, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and Hamilton is looking set to win the championship at the moment.
The definition of a two-horse race now. Hamilton and Verstappen 5 seconds apart. Sergio Perez back into third with the pit stops, but he's 25 seconds down on his teammate. So there's a big gap between the top two and the rest, as there has been all season long. It's been a story of just two drivers. The winner takes all, and right now Hamilton has just got the pace in the Mercedes. And all the chatter was the benefit of the soft tyres for Verstappen to start on was going to be he can get a good start and then just defend for all he's got for 58 laps. But that start, we can talk about the moment and the overtake that never was at turn 6. But the start, Max has got to be ruining a little bit of that as well, because on the better tyres, that was the moment where maybe this got away, because with Hamilton now in front, he's just got the pace to stay there.
Hasn't had very good starts overall, Max Verstappen, recently. Is that fair to say? He got Bottas in Brazil, but that's sort of Saudi Arabia. I think he was poor on every start, wasn't he?
Mexico, he took the lead. Brazil, he took the lead. But Saudi and Qatar, he had a monstrous start, didn't he? After his grid penalty. But it has just been this the last couple of races.
And Lewis, if we were to stop under safety car, would you prefer medium or hard?
Both times felt good. There's not
Didn't really answer the question.
He's not bothered. He's not bothered if he wants medium or hard tyres. He's happy on both. And Mercedes then just trying to cover their options in case there's a safety car. We've had a couple of retirements, Raikkonen and Russell, but they both managed to get round to the pits. If one of them didn't, they might call a safety car, which would bunch up the pack. So then there's pressure on the Mercedes and Red Bull strategists to decide if they pit or not. That's one of the elements taken out. Ask the driver what tyres he wants if you do pit, and Lewis isn't too bothered either way. He's happy on the hard, so maybe they'll stick with that. It's been the last two races that Verstappen has had poor starts, and it's been really crucial in all of them, really. In Saudi, there were, 3 race starts, all of which were not great for Max. He got away with it with just pure aggression, but this one, he couldn't really get away with at the start, but he had that chance to come back, didn't he, at 6?
That 34 of 58. We are 10 minutes away from kickoff in Leicester versus Newcastle, which you can hear the first half of on Sports Extra. We'll bring you the second half here on 5 Live. Burnley versus West Ham also underway at 2, and we'll keep you updated with that. And it's full time at Tynecastle. Roddy Forsyth.
Hearts 0, Rangers 2, and Rangers go 7 points clear of Celtic, who meet Motherwell at 3 o'clock. First half goals from Morelos and Aribo saw the champions over the line, although they needed a clutch of big saves from Alan McGregor to get them there against the Hearts side, who struck the crossbar twice before going down to 10 men when Josh Ginnelly was sent off for a second yellow card. Hearts 0, Rangers 2.
Thank you very much, Roddy. Lewis Hamilton leading the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yeah, doing a good job. Really good job.
Charles Leclerc being told he's doing a really good job to keep Valtteri Bottas behind him, which is pretty accurate, really. Leclerc running in 8th place. Still Alonso and Gasly in 4th and 5th, yet to stop. Hamilton is about to set another fastest lap of the Grand Prix, this time a 27.2. 2 tenths quicker than he had previously managed. And here comes Bottas now. He's going to get Leclerc this time to the inside, coming into the left, right at 6 and 7. Leclerc will have the DRS down the next straight, but Bottas has just got so much better traction coming out of that chicane. He breezes away, and I would be surprised if Leclerc is able to get back at him coming down into turn 9. He's not, so that move is made for Bottas up into 8th place. Hamilton on that last lap, another half a second. The gap is up to 5.5 seconds. Hamilton ahead of Verstappen and in position to win the championship, and we are past the halfway mark in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
That's the benefit of fresher tyres then for Bottas. A faster car as well. His teammates marching away with the race, and currently the championship as it stands, and Bottas there making a move on Charles Leclerc for 8th position. Pitted a lot later and just had the tyres really. Leclerc trying to come back at him, but just no rear grip, and that's so crucial when you're trying to put the foot down to get the traction and get the run on the driver ahead. Slow moving Alfa Romeo there. Antonio Giovinazzi's got a problem.
No shifting. And it got
No gears, or well, he was told not to shift.
He's
and
pulling
change
off
gears, so virtual safety car chance, almost certain virtual safety car, maybe a real safety car. We'll wait and see. Antonio Giovinazzi pulls over to the side of the circuit. The other Alfa Romeo, Raikkonen already out of the Grand Prix. Giovinazzi's last race in Formula 1, and he is at the side of the track. It will be, I'm sure, a virtual safety car. It's whether anyone takes advantage of that. Hamilton and Verstappen have just come past the pit lane now, so it might not work out for either of them to make a pit stop.
He's parked in a decent place, Giovinazzi, just in front of an area they can push the car behind the barriers, but at the moment the marshals aren't going out there to recover it. As soon as they do and they get the all clear to, then we'll get probably a virtual safety car for that one, I think.
He is in a fairly precarious, he is sort of right on the exit of the racing line, and the virtual safety car does slow the cars down, no doubt, and there is the virtual safety car then. So everybody has to slow down to basically a speed limit fundamentally, and Hamilton and Verstappen are still 5.5 seconds apart. If you're Verstappen, do you pit this time anyway? Just because if it's still happening when you're coming past the pit lane?
Yeah, I think you got to go for it now. You have a reduced pit stop cost.
It's quite a long way for the teams to pit the cars back. Leclerc comes in. And my apologies, I spoke over Pete Bonington there, so I didn't catch what he said to Hamilton. As they come around the final couple of corners.
Hamilton can't pit because he's going to lose the track position, and that's what he just doesn't want to do. So I don't think Hamilton can pit, but he's such a bold call to call him in. Verstappen can pit and still emerge in second place.
Stay out was the message to Hamilton, and Red Bull are coming out. So Verstappen, as he comes into the final corner now, the virtual safety car still out.
Box and pit confirm, please, Max. Box, pit confirm.
So Verstappen pits from second position. A new set of tyres for him to try and attack Hamilton with, Jenny.
Yeah, so he flashes into his pit box. They're going to do a little tweak to his front wing as well. Slightly slower than the last one, but he's back out on a new set of the hard tyres. This is an all-or-nothing risk move from Red Bull.
So Verstappen is going to emerge now from the pit lane. He'll have had a cheaper pit stop than Hamilton. We'll give you the gaps between them when the virtual safety car comes in, because by dint of the fact that they're going slower, the gaps are bigger than they actually are in real life. Perez comes into the pit lane now as well. So this is a big opportunity for Red Bull. It's exactly what they needed to try and get back into this championship fight.
It depends how long the virtual safety car is still deployed for, because now Hamilton, if it's still virtual safety car, Hamilton can also pit.
Michael, please, no safety car interferes in the race, please not.
Toto Wolff asking for there not to be a safety car. Hamilton is now coming down towards turn 9. That is where Giovinazzi is off the circuit at the moment, and it depends when the virtual safety car is ending, because if it ends in the next, I would suggest, approximately 30 seconds, then Hamilton won't be able to make his pit stop under the virtual safety car. Here he comes now. He's coming through the right-hander of 12 and 13, and there's still, we haven't had a look at where Giovinazzi's car is. Here he comes. But even if Hamilton comes into the pits and then the virtual safety car ends, that is difficult timing. And Giovinazzi's car is going away now, so they could go racing again any moment. What is the decision from Mercedes? Hamilton through the final corner. Virtual safety car is ending, and Hamilton stays out.
So the gap to Verstappen now 17.9 seconds.
How is it 17? How has he not lost 21 seconds?
VSC.
We're going to be in trouble.
Hamilton asking, are we going to be in trouble? Racing gets back underway, lap 38 of 58. Hamilton leads the Grand Prix on basically 25 lap old hard tyres. Max Verstappen has a brand new set of tyres on his Red Bull, and he is going to be chasing Hamilton down now. The gap is 17 seconds between them with 20 laps to go. A second a lap, that's your window you're looking for.
What was the answer, Bono? Are they going to be in trouble? It cut off. Hamilton's had better pace the whole way through. 38 laps, 2 of which, or a lap and a half of which, was under virtual safety car. That's allowed Verstappen the pit stop. He's just underneath 17 seconds away now, and without that, he'd have been about 26 seconds away. So that's helped Max take the second stop and not lose quite as much time as he otherwise would have done. And now he just needs to hammer it on these fresher tyres. We've seen the gain that they can provide on Bottas's car, who pitted late. The beneficiary further down.
Okay, there's that gap at 17.0 for Verstappen. He will need 0.8 a lap on us to catch, so we just need to keep that in mind.
Feels like a lot on a Mercedes that's very quick, but what is the benefit of the new hard tyre, and how much did Hamilton take out of his hard tyres by building that gap?
Those are the questions. Those are the questions that we now wait for the answer to. Across the line comes Verstappen. He does the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. It's a 1 minute 16.3. The gap is now down to 16.3 seconds. Sorry, it's a 1 minute 26.3, and the gap is now down to 16.3 seconds. So that was fast-ish from Verstappen, but not absolutely outrageous. And Hamilton is now pushing on these tyres and is very, very quick in the first part of the lap.
Catching a back marker of Lance Stroll, but at a decent point on the circuit.
Bit of a risk leave me out, no?
Yeah, the potential to lose track position, Lewis, too high.
Well, Hamilton thinks it was a risk to leave him out. I think if Hamilton emerges with fresher tyres behind Verstappen with a faster car, but you'd think that would be doable. But then you have to overtake Verstappen again, and that is the thing you want to avoid.
Yeah, you want to do that, really? Put yourself behind Max Verstappen with 19 or 20 laps to go to win the title? I think Mercedes have called this right. I think Red Bull have called it right. They've done the only things that were sensible. If Hamilton had pitted the second lap, it would have been touch and go. And I think because the virtual safety car ended at the crucial time, definitely, I think he would have come out behind. So Mercedes called that right. They couldn't take the gamble of covering the next lap, Verstappen. That's meant that Verstappen's on these fresher tyres and Hamilton isn't. But if Hamilton pitted and then Verstappen wouldn't have done, then it would be Max ahead of Lewis in these closing stages, and we know how hard he is to pass.
Yeah, he tried to push me off. I was in front, in the corner braking, so still okay. Copy.
Fernando Alonso complaining about some action with Yuki Tsunoda. I'm not sure Tsunoda's done a lot wrong there, as Alonso went off and cut the corner and went on his way.
Alonso firing it in out of control. If that's the move that Alonso's complaining about, then absolutely nothing to see here. But we're getting another replay now of Tsunoda into turn 9. Is this the part that Fernando's complaining about? I'm not sure. Alonso trying to make a bit of a hairy move up the inside of Tsunoda's AlphaTauri at turn 12 from a bit far back, out of control, big oversteer, went wide. Absolutely no complaints there. It was a bit of a Verstappen move from Brazil or Saudi Arabia, that one for Fernando Alonso.
Leicester versus Newcastle is underway on 5 Live Sports Extra.
Yeah, well, I won't be able to keep this pace up for the whole way.
Yeah, copy, Lewis. Yeah, we should both be on the dead curve, though.
So Hamilton saying we'll be there at the King Power for second half commentary later on. Only 19 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Hamilton saying I won't be able to keep this pace up for the whole rest of the race, and Pete Bonington, his engineer, saying yeah, point taken, but Verstappen won't be able to keep his pace up that he's doing now for the rest of the Grand Prix as well. They'll both be on a dead curve, i.e. both cars suffering with degradation and therefore getting slower.
Verstappen 8/10 quicker this time around as he comes through. The lap before, he did the fastest lap of the race, which was basically 7/10 quicker than Hamilton. So he's there or thereabouts with the 7 or 8/10 that he'd need per lap, but he needs to do that and then pass Hamilton at this rate. The gap is now 14.5 seconds. Hamilton's tyres are older. He's going to be further into the dead curve, but with all this pushing that Verstappen's doing, basically, Pete Bonnington's saying, don't worry, Lewis, your tyres are going away, but Max is not going to be fresh forever either. So they still got 20 laps to do, and at full tilt, they're going to be starting to overheat as well at various moments.
That 41.58, Jenny Gow.
It just goes to show, doesn't it, that you can have the best drivers in the world, but it's not just reliant on their driving skills. This comes down to a little bit of luck with a virtual safety car, maybe. This comes down to the team calling strategy. This is a team game, even though it's one driver who will walk off with this championship at the end of it. Well, who will it be, Hamilton or Verstappen? We're no clearer and no nearer to knowing.
Well, it's Verstappen in the box seat at the moment, lap 41.58. He's 14.7 seconds ahead of Verstappen in second place, and the gap isn't coming down dramatically. Perez is third, fourth is Carlos Sainz, fifth is Lando Norris, sixth is Valtteri Bottas, who's trying to pass Norris for fifth position. Then it's Yuki Tsunoda in seventh place. Alonso is in eighth position, but not for very long, because Pierre Gasly sweeps past in the AlphaTauri. So Gasly now up into ninth place, Ocon 10th, Ricciardo 11th, Leclerc, Vettel, Stroll, Schumacher and Latifi, the 16 drivers still running. Leclerc has made 2 pit stops, that's why he's down in 12th position. Alonso trying to fight back with Gasly, but not close enough to get him into turn 9. Hamilton leading, the gap to Verstappen now, 14.3 seconds. So it's not coming down by, I would suggest, anywhere near enough, realistically.
4/10 on the last lap that Verstappen took out of Hamilton, but Lewis did his personal best lap of the race so far. So the tyres are hanging on for the moment. They are durable, the hard tyres here. The degradation is not particularly high, so he should be able to go to the end on them. And Verstappen doesn't seem to be extracting a huge amount more pace on his fresher tyres. So it's still looking at the moment like it's Hamilton's to lose, but you never know. The more you use the tyres, the more they become vulnerable, maybe slower, and prone to damage as well, which is going to be something that Mercedes could get worried about towards the end of the race.
Hamilton pretty much matches his best lap of the race so far, a 1:26.7. Verstappen is coming through the final right-hander now of turn 16 and out across the line, and he cuts the timing beam to only go 0.3 of a second quicker. The Mercedes of Hamilton is looking so strong up at the front. Will his tyres last if he continues to push them? That's going to be the question, but we are on lap 43 of 58, so only 15 laps to go or so in this Grand Prix, which has gone by quite quickly, considering not a huge amount has happened since that opening lap drama. It's rattling away, and we've probably only got 20 minutes or so remaining of this one. Hamilton leading, 14 seconds ahead of Verstappen in second place, but there's just not enough pace coming from Verstappen. But curiously, he's not even sort of setting personal bests the whole time.
No, he's had the fastest lap of the race quite early on, but not able to find anything more. He's got a couple of Aston Martins ahead to lap soon, and that's where Hamilton lost a bit of time when he was coming past Vettel and Stroll in the Aston Martins. The gap came down a little bit more on those laps. But like it was earlier on, really, the Mercedes is able to just keep the pace. He was quicker on the same tyres. Now Verstappen's on the fresher tyres. He's slightly quicker, but it's not enough to make up for the extra pit stop that he's taken.
So Hamilton comes over the line now, past our commentary position and down towards turn 1. And then through will come 2 Aston Martins, Vettel ahead of Stroll. And then here now into the final corner comes Max Verstappen, and he goes across the line now. So that is the difference between them. That is 14 seconds, and on that last lap it was another 0.2 that the gap came down by. It's nowhere near quick enough for Max Verstappen if he wants to win this championship. Valtteri Bottas is right behind Lando Norris. That's the sound you can hear in the Mercedes. Thinks about having an overtake but doesn't, and Norris remains in 5th, Bottas 6th, Tsunoda 7th, 8th, Gasly 9th, Alonso 10th, Ocon.
It's a long way for Hamilton to go.
Perez being told it's a long way for Hamilton to go. True. Is that just a bit telling your driver these things, clutching at straws?
because Perez is just watching it on the telly around the circuit. He's not in contention anymore, Sergio Perez. He's 41 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. So if Hamilton were to pit for whatever reason, he's still not going to be close to Perez. Perez won't even see him. But just being kept in the loop for whatever reason there. The driver in a comfortable third.
And we've got a group of 4 cars ahead who are battling.
So that's Hamilton being warned. You might be about to lose a bit of time here because there's Alonso, Ocon, Ricciardo and Leclerc all in a queue and fighting over that very precious 9th place as they come down towards turn 5, and it'll be quite tricky for Hamilton to get past. How difficult is it to let the leader pass when you're in that fight, or is it quite straightforward?
Well, you've got to get out of the way when the blue flags fly at your earliest convenience, basically, which is the earliest sensible straight. So there's not a lot of choice, but when you are racing with each other, particularly when you're going for a move, you are looking ahead as well as thinking about getting out of the way. So it's more complicated, and fundamentally it's just 4 cars all in a very tight space that are racing each other 4 points here. So it's going to be tougher for Hamilton. It's not what he wants to hear at this stage. You just want a nice clear run, use the pace of the Mercedes car and it'll be fine. But it's going to be a little bit more complicated because there's 4 cars all battling, and Leclerc's trying to pass Ricciardo. Leclerc in the Ferrari took a second pit stop, is trying to make up for that, currently out of the points, and he's got DRS on Ricciardo as well, so he's just looking ahead and thinking ahead. Ferrari team have got to get on the radio for him and say the race leader's coming through.
Lap 45 of 58. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just having a chat with one of the engineers about these tyres and saying can Hamilton's tyres last? And I have to say, they're saying yes, they can. They could have gone all the way to the end of the race if they wanted them to.
That's the thing. And there was no real trouble going to the end. Verstappen had to roll the dice because there was no point not. Should they have been going onto a medium tyre or something like that, or that makes no difference either?
Well, Hamilton said it didn't really make a difference and he was happy on the hards. The hard tyre can last, but you can push on them. The mediums might drop off. Leclerc pitted for a medium, but isn't making big inroads either, given a few positions away and not able to get them back, the Ferrari driver. I think it was just a shot at nothing, really, for Verstappen. They don't have the pace. This race at the moment has got away from them because of that first lap. They put themselves in a great position yesterday by taking pole position. Brilliant lap from Max. Took pole, but it all came down to nothing because of that start that Lewis made. Again, poor off the line from Verstappen. Then the big contentious moment that will be spoken about later, with Verstappen lunging it back on Hamilton. Hamilton keeping the place by cutting the corner. Was he forced off, or was it a legitimate move from Verstappen? That's the debate. And that is the critical moment of this race, because as soon as Hamilton got through, he's just had the better pace in race conditions, as he's had for a long time, actually, in the second part of this season.
Leicester versus Newcastle is underway. Let's check in with Andy Giddings.
Well, it's Leicester 0, Newcastle United 0. Leicester City looks shaky at the back, and they've already lost Johnny Evans to injury. Since that injury, Newcastle United have had half chances for Almiron, who's hit the side netting, and Callum Wilson, who flashed wide. Leicester 0, Newcastle 0.
Burnley West Ham at Turf Moor. Mike Miney.
0-0, 12 minutes gone here. Burnley's Chris Wood rising highest from a corner, sent it over the bar from 6 yards. West Ham struggling to get their rhythm. Masuaku's ambitious volley outside the box, dipping low the left-hand post, the closest they've come. Burnley 0, West Ham 0.
Hamilton, meanwhile, is clearing the back markers here in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Lap 47 of 58. And Alonso and Ocon are the next for Hamilton to clear. He's not losing a huge amount of time though there either, is he? Everything is going well for Hamilton so far. 13.2 seconds ahead of Verstappen, and even clearing Ricciardo and Leclerc, he hasn't really lost much time.
Verstappen's had to clear Stroll and Vettel as well, the 2 Aston Martins finally, but he's just not quick enough, Max, and he's going to need something to go wrong for Lewis at this stage to bring Red Bull back into play. Their car is not competitive enough in race trim, and Hamilton, even on the more used tyres, isn't struggling.
It says I've got 8 laps on my dash.
Ignore the dash. Ignore the dash.
So Hamilton's saying it says I've got 8 laps on my dash. What does that mean? 8 laps to go. His dash on the steering wheel is saying he's got 8 laps to go, but actually he's got 11.
could be laps remaining. I had that on my dash. You can sort of choose what goes on there. It could be a fuel thing, where his dash is telling him that he's in trouble with fuel consumption, which Daniel Ricciardo had a couple of races ago, and it was an erroneous message. But Hamilton raising the concern, whatever it is, and the team just saying ignore it. Distractions that you don't need. Still, as easy as it looks for Hamilton at this stage, the tension's there, the pressure's there. We've had 3 retirements from this race, none of which were driver error. The cars are at the end of their life as well. Going to be museum pieces at the end of this race. New Formula 1 cars for next year, new generation of car for next year, and all the mileage that's been done, the engines, the gearboxes, a load of components, just trying to get to the end. And Mercedes and Red Bull will have done all they can to make sure they're reliable, because of how critical, of course, it is. It's the back-end teams that have broken down so far, the 2 Alfa Romeos and the Williams of George Russell.
How many laps?
11 remaining, gap to Verstappen, 12.3.
How's it going? I'm down to 12 already.
It's just that back marker traffic, Lewis. He's going to have to get through it too.
But how's it come down to 12 already? 12 is not a worrying number, I don't think, if you're Lewis Hamilton.
1.2 seconds a lap.
Yeah,
is what Max has got to do. It was 0.8 seconds per lap. Hamilton sweeps around the second Alpine then of Fernando Alonso, running in 9th place, and he's cleared the 4 back markers that have cost him a little bit of time. He lost 9/10 to Verstappen that time around. So Verstappen was going through his own couple of back markers before, then managed to get 1 clear lap in as Hamilton was in a little bit more traffic. Cost Hamilton a second. The gap is now 11 seconds. But another lap has ticked away, and Hamilton's still looking strong.
Valtteri Bottas is trying to pass Lando Norris for 5th position still, and he's bailing out of this one as well, Valtteri Bottas. It's been an underwhelming drive when you compare it to Sergio Perez's, for example, in the other Red Bull earlier on today. But Hamilton leading, Verstappen 2nd, Perez is 3rd, Sainz is 4th, Norris is 5th, Bottas 6th, Tsunoda, Gasly, Alonso and Ocon are the rest of the top 10. 10 laps to go now, 11 seconds, the gap between Hamilton and Verstappen. It's still looking good. Into the pits comes Ricciardo. Norris.
Possibly a slow puncture for Norris.
And he's got a slow puncture, Lando Norris. Now, he had one in Qatar a couple of races ago, and he pitted, and then everybody else got actual punctures.
Okay, well that'll make everyone sit up a little bit more. Slow puncture. In Qatar it was the tyres going a long way, wearing a bit of the rubber, and then being hit by curbs. There's a lot of sort of flatter curbs, but then over them they were shark tooth, more protruding edges that were cutting the tyres.
And we've seen Norris with a front left puncture, so just be careful on the curbs.
Pete Bonington is trying to give this news in the cheeriest way possible, isn't he? Norris has a puncture, but you know, it's all right.
Hamilton has the furthest to go in this race now. Norris had a puncture in Qatar earlier than most. He was actually having a really good drive there, and that releases Valtteri Bottas finally into 5th. But it's the first warning sign of things not being all right with the tyres. There were 3 punctures or 4 if you include Lando's slow puncture as well in Qatar, all from tyres trying to extend as long as possible and not quite making it. Here's Hamilton.
So we think the problem curbs maybe just turn 15, turn 16.
So basically the final 2 corners are on the circuit. Hamilton being told that that's where the punctures might be coming from.
Right-handers, quick right-hander of 15, slightly slower of 16. And the outside curves then with the left front with a lot of load on it. The outside front taking the load of a Formula 1 car, then bouncing over the curb slightly, maybe leaving it prone to damage. And a worn tyre as well. Just has a little bit less protection, a little bit less rubber there, and is more prone to damage than others.
I think it's worth bearing in mind that Norris pitted on lap 18 from the soft onto a hard tyre. Hamilton came in 3 laps before that, 15 it was, lap 15. They're currently on lap 51. That is a long way to go with these tyres, and every single lap now is going to be heart in mouth stuff for the whole of the Mercedes team, for Lewis Hamilton himself, and for all the fans that want a Hamilton victory. But is this a chance for Verstappen?
he's just too far back and doesn't have the pace. On that last lap, they did identical lap times. Sergio Perez in third was quicker than Verstappen. Okay, Perez's tyres are a little fresher, but Verstappen doesn't really have an answer to Hamilton.
And Verstappen now is catching all those back markers. Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon, Alonso, and then Norris, who's pitted and has just passed Fernando Alonso again to be back in 8th place. Verstappen's about to go through a huge amount of traffic, which is going to hold him back even more. The laps are ticking down. He doesn't have the pace to make this up. It's just whether Hamilton's tyres will cling on to the end now.
Verstappen closing in on that traffic now. He turns left at turn 12, then left again at 13, underneath the bridge that takes you from the paddock to the huge hotel that's on the inside of 13 and 14. And Verstappen now into the final corner and out across the line. Lap 52 of 58 now. Very much the closing stages of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and Lewis Hamilton is looking set to become, without question, the most successful Formula One driver of all time. He already has the most wins. He already has the most pole positions. He's tied on 7 with Michael Schumacher for World Championships. He could have 8 in 6 laps' time, after undoubtedly his most difficult season in Formula One. Maybe his most difficult season in his career. He's 11.5 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, and the Dutch fans in the grandstand looking rather forlorn. They were buzzing earlier on today, but they've just seen the race slip away from their man. Let's get an update on Leicester Newcastle. Andy.
Just short of 20 minutes played, James Maddison with the moment of the match for Leicester, a whipped free kick that was inches over the top of the crossbar, low key otherwise. Leicester 0, Newcastle 0.
Burnley West Ham, Mike.
0-0 West Ham going into this game, but their main efforts have been speculative from outside the area. Lanzini the latest, his shot always rising over the bar. 20 minutes gone, Burnley 0, West Ham 0.
Both of those games could have important connotations at the bottom of the table. Burnley currently 18th, Newcastle 19th, but they're both only 2 points off Watford, so a win for either would bring them level on points with the Hornets. Lap 53 of 58, we'll have second half commentary from the Leicester game once we have finished here, and it's looking more and more finished every lap that progresses, isn't it? Hamilton was 7/10 quicker than Verstappen on that last lap. He was clearing the traffic. The traffic got out of the way relatively easily, Leclerc and Ricciardo, but Verstappen is just losing time, and it's just not the charge I suppose, expecting from Verstappen. Hamilton has been fully in control of this Grand Prix since the moment they dropped the clutches, really.
Since the moment he kept on track, or kept the place halfway around lap 1. That was the key point of this race. When Hamilton kept the place,
into the wall is Nicholas Latifi. Nicholas Latifi has hit the barriers coming out of turn 14. That is going to be a safety car. That could be the end of the Grand Prix. Lap 53 of 58, safety car will come out, and we might, goodness me, either we won't get any more racing, or we will have a 1 or 2 lap sprint to the finish. Hamilton, will he pit this time for some fresh tyres?
I don't think he's got the gap to pit and come out ahead of Verstappen, and Verstappen does have the gap to pit and stay ahead of Perez.
This could change the championship completely. Just like the whole Formula One season so far. Every time it's settling down, it all kicks off again. And with 5 laps to go, Latifi's in the wall. The cars will be going slowly behind the safety car. The marshals will remove Latifi's car. And there's a chance we might have a 1-lap shootout for the win, for the championship, with Verstappen on brand new, pretty much, soft tyres. Because into the pits comes the Red Bull driver now. A new set of softs going on.
Negative.
And that was a lot of swearing on the radio from Hamilton. I thought they were just playing tone, but I think it was all the beeps.
And he's been picked up by the safety car, so everyone is now going to bunch up behind him, including Verstappen. But how quickly are they going to be able to restart this race? That's the question. There's a lot of lap cars in there that will be allowed through. There's a destroyed Williams on the track as well that needs to be picked up and taken off the road. How quickly will they get going? If they get going quickly, Verstappen is going to have an unbelievable shot to pass Lewis Hamilton on a very old hard tyre on a brand new soft.
If the race restarts, Hamilton is in huge trouble. absolutely huge trouble.
In bizarre circumstances, the outcome of the 2021 season might rest on the Abu Dhabi Marshals.
Hamilton sums it up. That is unbelievable. If the race gets going again, now they have really doused Nicholas Latifi's car with fire extinguisher, so presumably there was a bit of a smoke coming from it, and that might take a little bit longer to get going again. Now, has Latifi had a crash all by himself? He was going around the outside of Mick Schumacher at turn 9, and then they might have had a bit of contact, which maybe later has led to a puncture or something for Nicholas Latifi. They were battling over 15th position. Latifi was pushed off by Schumacher, and then coming into turn 14, the back end's gone. Difficult to tell if that was sort of damage related or just a spin for the Canadian.
You're lucky he just dropped it with oversteer. Dirty air maybe behind Schumacher, and he just dropped the rear of the car. Barrier's very close there on the exit of the hotel section.
Baku, was it Baku this year that they just flew the red flag instantly?
Yeah, and we had a 2-lap shootout.
Yeah.
Because of the red flag. Here, no such case at the moment.
That would seem like the sensible thing to do.
Well, Baku, they were more worried about tyre blowouts, weren't they?
Yeah.
After there were many drivers on an old hard tyre. We had Stroll had a failure, then Verstappen's failure brought out the red flag. There's not a red flag yet, and the laps still tick down.
What's the situation behind
So, situation is, Verstappen has pitted. He had a free pit stop. We would have lost track position to him. 4 laps remaining when you cross the line. So this field has to bunch, and then they have to send lap cars through. So it may not restart.
Is he right behind me?
He will be, once they've sorted out all the order. This is going to take a while to sort out.
With new tyres?
Copy, Lewis. We would have lost track position if we had pitted.
This is tough for Hamilton. The safety car is trying to go slowly to give the marshals the time to clear it up, but this is going to be so tough. If I had to put money on it, I don't think the race is restarting.
I don't think so. There's a bit of a big wreckage, the Williams down at turn 14. There was no marshals very quickly onto the track as they were dousing it in extinguisher. The marshals were nowhere near the car after that.
I'm so surprised they didn't red flag. Considering Baku in Azerbaijan earlier this year, it was a similar scenario. I can't remember who crashed out.
It was Verstappen.
Oh, it was from the Verstappen crash. Yeah, of course. Sorry. But there wasn't many laps to go. There weren't many laps to go. And they red flagged it in order to get some racing in and to get a good conclusion to the Grand Prix. And it was decided that that was sort of the good best for the show.
The safety car's not going full gas down the straight.
Copy, Lewis. Understood.
Latifi's car is already attached to a crane and getting pulled off the circuit. There's a load of sort of cement dust down on the exit of the corner, but they might deem that fine to go. And then Verstappen and Hamilton will be duking it out for the championship title with 2 laps on the clock, potentially.
And the safety car going slowly is not good for Hamilton on his used hard tyres either. He's going to lose a lot of temperature from that tyre. You've got Verstappen now. He's going to be right behind him on a soft tyre. They've still got a load of lap cars in between. The lap cars, as soon as they cross the line here, I think will be allowed to overtake the safety car and Lewis Hamilton and unlap themselves.
I think we're getting a 2-lap, 1-lap shootout. I think we're getting a 1-lap shootout, aren't we?
That's the way it looks, I think. A 1-lap shootout. Red Bull are coming back into the garage. They've just pitted both drivers already.
And into the pits comes Perez. Perez coming into the pits then. As you say, he'd already pitted. And is he retiring the car? They're not looking... Perez is retiring then. Out of the race, Sergio Perez. That's an interesting one. So obviously some kind of problem there for the Red Bull team. But I think we're in for a 1-lap sprint to decide the championship.
Checo, we need to retire the car. We need to retire the car. Box.
Really?
Yeah, box.
Oh, lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. So Hamilton will have a 1-lap sprint, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars in between he and Verstappen.
I can't understand that. I can't understand why.
They just make the rules up as they go. Like, they change every time.
They could just be allowed to overtake a while ago already and then join the back of the pack, and we'd have the top 2 duking it out for maybe 1 lap. it's harsh on Hamilton. But
Red Bull are going to hit the roof here, aren't they?
I cannot understand the logic for the race to be restarted with 5 cars a lap down in between Hamilton and Verstappen.
That makes it almost impossible for Verstappen to win. Safety car not in yet.
And all the other cars in between, they're still racing each other for points. Norris, Alonso, Ocon.
Cancel that. Lap cars will not be allowed to overtake.
Yeah, of course. Typical decision.
It's classic.
I'm not surprised.
I just don't get it.
I have to say, I thought that for me, Verstappen's sort of and Red Bull's complaints about treated unfairly wasn't correct in Saudi Arabia. I feel today they've had 2 big calls go against them. And the safety car is not coming in on this lap, so it will just be 1 lap. They could have already let the cars go, and that's what happens every single time. Or, in Baku, they could have red flagged it. There's so many better ways this could have gone for fairness and sport.
Rubbish. It's rubbish. Why? When was the last time lap cars weren't able to overtake?
About 1999, before the rule came in, or something like that.
It's a really bizarre one, and it's harsh on Hamilton if lap cars can overtake, but that's what we always have.
Yeah.
It's harsh on Hamilton, who, through no fault of his own, was driving a very easy race out front.
Christian and Michael.
Yes, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, why aren't we getting these lap cars out of the way?
Just give me, because Christian, just give me a second. Okay, my big one is to get this incident clear.
You only need 1 racing lap.
And I keep drawing the comparison, but Baku, they red flagged the race. They could have thrown the red flag here for 10 minutes, cleared up the mess, and then we have a race to the finish. But they've done all they can to make this as underwhelming as possible.
So not a great way to end it, is it?
One of the most epic season of all time is ended on 2 occasions with fairly unsatisfactory FIA decisions, really.
The lap cars can overtake.
Oh, they can overtake now.
And are they going to get out the way very quick? We're about to go on to the last lap, so how quickly have they all got to get through?
So it is going to happen. We're going to have the last lap is going to be Hamilton ahead of Verstappen.
But is it even going to... Is safety cars ending, but the lap cars are there?
Mike.
This is a mess.
Another huge mess. Another huge mess. Safety car coming in this lap. It is going to be, we'll get into the rights and the wrongs and the who's and the whatnots later on.
Michael, this isn't right.
That's Toto Wolff, not happy with Michael Massey, the race director. We worried that it would all fall apart in terms of race direction. Verstappen is side by side with Hamilton. We'll get into the who's and the what's and the whatevers later, probably in the Checker Flag podcast, which will be about 2 hours long. But right now, we have a wheel-to-wheel race for the 2021 Formula One World Championship. The safety car comes in. We go racing again. Hamilton leads. Verstappen is second. There's 1 lap to go. Whoever wins the title. If they crash, Verstappen wins the title. They come into turn 1. Hamilton is just ahead of Verstappen by 0.4 of a second. But Verstappen has brand new, fresh, soft tyres. Hamilton's tyres are very old, very hard, and he runs wide coming out of turn 3. And he's going to have a brilliant opportunity. He sends it coming into turn 5, and Verstappen takes the lead. Verstappen gets ahead of Hamilton and moves into championship winning position. He then starts weaving left to right, all the way down the straight, which is against the rules. But Hamilton is still in there, still in the tow. Looks to the outside, coming into the chicane at turn 6 and 7. There's one more chance for Hamilton, and that's down into turn 9. He gets on the power. Verstappen has a slide, and they're going to be slipstreaming.
No, Michael, that was so not right.
Here comes Hamilton now to the outside of Verstappen. They're coming down to turn 9. Hamilton doesn't do it. Verstappen holds the lead of the Grand Prix, and Verstappen is going to become the world champion. He's got 6 more corners to go. Hamilton has lost it on the final lap. He won his first world championship on the final lap of the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2008.
Verstappen is going to win his first World Championship on the final lap in Abu Dhabi 2021. The checkered flag is there. Verstappen's the world champion. Hamilton loses it right at the end. Mercedes are going to be furious. Red Bull are going bananas on the pit wall. Christian Horner punches the air, clenches his fist, shouts at the camera. Max Verstappen closes his eyes, looks up towards the sky. The 6,000 Dutch fans are partying in the grandstand as the fireworks go off.
Yes! Yes! Oh my God! Yes! Yes! Oh my God!
Out of absolutely nowhere, Max Verstappen has won the Formula One World Championship of 2021. In unpleasant, messy circumstances, Verstappen has had a superb year, Jolyon Palmer. Let's get that out of the way right now. Toto Wolff is furious in the garage, but Verstappen is a phenomenal talent, phenomenal driver. He's done exceptional things this season, and overall, more than a worthy champion. He's going to be a legend of the sport.
Absolutely. This will be the first of many championships for Max Verstappen. We said it before the race, whoever comes out on top would be the worthy winner. Now, we did not think it was going to go down like that. The two wheel to wheel for half a lap on the final lap. Again, Verstappen could be aggressive. He threw his car to the inside at turn 5, uncompromising as ever, and he made it stick.
Max Verstappen, you are the world champion! The world champion!
Mate, you absolutely deserve it. You absolutely deserve it. You've had no luck. Not the rub of the green. Recharge on, please. Recharge on.
Max, we are so proud of you. Oh my God, guys. I love you so much. You have driven like a champion all year. You deserve that. We needed a bit of luck. You got it. You made it happen. And we love you. We absolutely love you.
There's going to be an unbelievable post-mortem into this one. There's going to be unbelievable discussions. FIA said one thing. Red Bull complained, they changed their mind. At a pretty unsafe moment, really. It was all just such a mess at the end, in the same way that Saudi Arabia was such a mess at the end. But I guess for a lot of you guys listening, you've probably loved this, and there's a real divide in current Formula One. Here's Verstappen again.
This is unbelievable, guys. Can we do this for another 10, 50 years together? Right, honestly.
But there's a real divide. Palmer, the former F1 driver, is probably sitting here thinking this is all a nonsense and this is not motor racing. There's millions and millions of people listening and watching around the world that think this is box office drama.
That is motor racing. It is motor racing. It was a messy, messy end. I feel so sorry for Lewis Hamilton, who had driven a great race, had it under control. It was a Nicholas Latifi error in a Williams that meant Verstappen had this incredible opportunity to win the race. In the end, it was the right decision to let the lap cars through, as is always the case. Circumstance has played horribly against Hamilton and in favour of Verstappen, who has delivered when there was still pressure on him on the final lap, but he had the tools finally to make the most of it.
Carlos Sainz finished third in the Ferrari. Yuki Tsunoda got his best result of the season. He finished fourth in the AlphaTauri, fifth Pierre Gasly, sixth Valtteri Bottas, eighth Norris, eighth Alonso, ninth Ocon, 10th Leclerc. But enough of that. Verstappen is on the shoulders of his mechanics, Jenny, in the middle of the track, and they're going bananas.
Oh, it's absolute scenes. There's rhapsody, there's joy, there's absolute heartbreak and disaster. They're all hugging each other for different reasons.
Just speechless, Lewis. Absolutely speechless.
Hamilton is still sitting in his car. He's still sitting in his car. It's all kicking off at Red Bull. Jenny.
It really is. It's all kicking off everywhere, all over the place. Christian Horner hugging people. The Red Bull team going onto the grid. There's Jos Verstappen, Max's dad as well. He is beside himself with absolute joy. But the way this has been won, the way it's been done, is it right, is it wrong? It's so difficult to tell which way this should have gone and which way it was meant to. I'm just trying to get a grip with Alain Prost. Alain, what do you think about the way that was won?
I tell you, it's going to be, for sure, it's going to be commented in terms of the perfect rule about the safety car, because it's very difficult for me to have a clear judgment. I can understand that they are not very happy about that.
It's a real split camp out there, but Max Verstappen is the world champion.
As I said, to you before the race, I mean, they both deserve to be champion, but it was exceptional in a way for the show, for Formula One. But it's always a little bit controversial, and that's part of the game also. But I don't want to. I try to feel, the happiness of Red Bull and Verstappen, and the sad side of Max and of Lewis and Mercedes.
Thank you very much, Alain Prost. Jack, controversial? Yes.
Well, so let's get this. I'm just going to clear all this up because it was all very busy at the end. So actually, what happened was about right in terms of the Palmer.
It's not that controversial, It's unlucky. It's a tough circumstance, but there was a safety car. Let's not lose sight of what happened here. Hamilton had the race in the bag. The safety car bunched up the whole pack, as it always does. Hamilton couldn't pit, because then Verstappen would have taken the lead, and it might not have been restarted, and Verstappen wins the championship on that. So Mercedes couldn't pit him. Red Bull pitted Verstappen, had the fresher tyres, and the lap cars coming through is what always happens. That's what you had to bank on. It was just whether the car would clear it up in time, and it was. So in the end, I think, the race was kind of done how it should be, and on that basis, I think Verstappen is the champion legitimately. I don't see how that's not the case. It's so tough on Mercedes. They're constructors champions, but they don't care about that right now. They've lost the driver's title. Hamilton has lost the driver's title in heartbreaking fashion.
Unlucky fashion.
Nothing he could do about it. Absolutely nothing. It's the way the season's gone. There's been unexpected twists and turns every single race. And here, out of nowhere, Latifi has a nothing-y crash into the wall, and it has changed the entire championship.
And I think my point would be that, and it's similar to Saudi Arabia, the communications between the teams and the race director that we're hearing is what ends up making it feel messy and controversial. If we don't hear any of the arguments, then safety, the cars unlap themselves, that's fine. That's as soon as the safety car came out, we knew Hamilton was in trouble.
Look, what was messy was the fact that we were told initially the cars wouldn't be unlapping themselves.
Yeah.
That's a odd decision. The fact that then it was righted and the cars, as per usual, unlap themselves, that's not the controversy. I think the controversy would be something very different to what we've had all year long. I think in the end, the outcome is tough for Hamilton, brilliant for Verstappen. Whichever way round, the championship was going to be, so tight, so tense. We didn't think it would be that tense, but both drivers are worthy winners. And Verstappen, he's kind of lucked into that at the final lap. He still had to deliver, still made the overtake, let's not forget. They were wheel to wheel for half the lap, but Verstappen had so much more grip and could risk it.
Yuri Tielemans has scored from the spot for Leicester, so they are 1-0 up. We'll have second half commentary of that in about 20 minutes' time. First, we're going to hear from the top three in the race and the champion as well. Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. And Verstappen and Hamilton embrace each other, pat each other on the shoulders. And now Verstappen is going to be speaking to Jenson Button after winning
Max Verstappen,
the World Championship.
You are a Formula One World Champion.
It's unbelievable. I mean, throughout the whole race I kept fighting, and then of course that opportunity in the last lap, it's incredible. I'm still having a cramp, but it's insane. It's insane. I mean, I don't know what to say. These guys here of my team, and of course Honda as well, they deserve it. I love them so much, and I really enjoyed working with them already since 2016, but this year has been incredible.
Christian said with 10 laps to go, you might need a miracle to win this championship. You got your miracle.
Yes, finally a bit of luck for me. insane. I also want to say a big thank you to Checo. I mean, he was driving his heart out as well today. It was great teamwork, and he's an amazing teammate.
You've given us the most exciting championship this year, yourself and Lewis. This year will go down in history as one of the best ever, and you came out on top. If you got a message for your team, for all the fans here that are supporting you?
Well, to my team, I think they know I love them, and I hope we can do this for 10, 15 years together. There's no reason to change ever. I want to stay with them for the rest of my life. I hope they let me, but yeah, it's insane. I'm so happy. And also, you know, Christian, but also Helmut, you know, trusting me to be in the team in 2016. Our goal, of course, was to win this championship, and now we have done that.
Congratulations, Max.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Huge applause for Max Verstappen, the new world champion. Lewis Hamilton beaten to the title on the very final lap. Here's Carlos Sainz.
Carlos, I mean, I'm not sure you expected a podium, but I'm sure you'll take it this weekend.
Definitely take it, yeah, especially, yeah. After everything that unraveled in that race with that late safety car, we were in the right place at the right time all the time with a good pace, and yeah, podium to end a magic season, first season for me in Ferrari, P5 in the championship. I think, yeah, I took it all today and definitely enjoyed it.
But you had the pace today. The car looked good. You know, your pace looked very strong.
I was very strong today from qualifying yesterday that I did a good lap today going into a race. Already laps to a grid, the car felt really good, and yeah, to put together a strong first stint, a strong stint on the hard. With the safety car there at the end, the nerves were high, but yeah, we managed to keep it together, and yeah, enjoyed it a lot.
I have to ask you about Max and Lewis. Max coming out on top, Formula One world champion. What are your thoughts?
I think whoever came on top today was going to deserve it. I think there are two great drivers at the peak of their careers, putting together a great show, and I mean, congratulations to both, especially for Max, obviously, after that mega win, and yeah, happy for him because we shared our first year together in Toro Rosso, and to see him now be capable of winning a world championship is also like a good thing for me, and I look up to it.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
So that's Carlos Sainz, a third place finish for the Spaniard. Second in the race, second in the championship, Lewis Hamilton. That's the welcome for Hamilton, a standing ovation from the grandstands.
Lewis, it's been an amazing season to watch for everyone, for the fans of Formula One. Whether you're a Max fan, whether you're a Lewis fan, it's been one of those seasons that's gone down to the wire, to the last lap of the race. It didn't go your way, but you must be proud of what you've done this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, firstly, a big congratulations to Max and to his team. I think we did an amazing job this year. My team, everyone back at the factory, all the men and women we have and here worked so hard this whole year. It's been the most difficult of seasons, and I'm so proud of them, so grateful to be a part of the journey with them. And yeah, we gave it everything. This last part of the season, we gave it absolutely everything, and we never gave up, and that's the most important thing.
You obviously started a little bit on the back foot at the start of the year, but as you said, you guys worked together. Very strong end to the season. Didn't quite go your way, but I think we've seen the best Lewis Hamilton I've ever seen, and you seem very confident in your ability to come back next year and fight for that crown again.
Yeah, of course I've been feeling good, great in the car this past couple of months, particularly at the end. If I'm honest, you know, we were still in the pandemic, and I just really wish everyone to stay safe and have a good Christmas with all their families, and yeah, we'll see about next year.
I feel it's one person has to win the World Championship, but I feel you deserve something this year, mate. That was an exceptional year, so congratulations.
Thank you, man.
That's Lewis Hamilton with Jenson Button, and Lewis Hamilton now makes his way past as he waves to the crowd, given a really good reception there, runner-up in the championship race. We're just now right underneath the podium. The second that Max Verstappen crossed the line, there were people who came running out of the garage with boxes full of T-shirts that say Verstappen champion on them. I'm delighted to say we can now speak to Adrian Newey, one of the top engineers at Red Bull, responsible for the overall design of the car. Adrian, your car, your driver, world champion. How does it feel?
Oh, amazing. I mean, it's been such a year of up and downs. And obviously, kind of at one point, you know, until the safety car came out, it looks as if it's all slipping away from us. And of course, things go through your mind, the opportunities we've missed, the bits and pieces. Cops in particular, the incident at Silverstone, I think, has been a real sore point. So to me, what happened at the end there, you know, it's the old thing, it's never over. We thought it was all not going to happen, but you never know. It's not over until the fat lady sings, as the saying goes. And I think for me, you know, obviously I'm biased, but I really do genuinely believe that the right man won the championship, the man that deserved it through the year.
So was there a time today when you thought, it's gone?
Of course. I mean, you know, the reality is they had a little bit more pace than us today. They have over the last few races, and it's of course when the opposition has that, it's only 2 or 3 tenths, but that little bit of difference, then it's difficult and it's hard. But we were lucky with the safety car. I can't pretend otherwise. But as I say, other times this year we've been unlucky. So I think, repeating myself, Max, I think absolutely deserved to be champion this year.
And one more, Adrian. Christian Horner has said time and time again about Max, the guy. He said he's a great guy. He deserves this. What about the bloke underneath that baseball cap?
Well, it's been a roller coaster year. I also had a nasty accident in August, which put me out of action for a bit, which is quite frustrating. You know, what can I say? I suppose I feel tremendously privileged to have had the career I've had, to have worked with my colleague engineers over the years that I've been lucky enough to work with. The drivers I've worked with, it's been amazing to be kind of winning a championship 30 odd years after my first race win at Williams is something I never ever dreamt of. I can remember getting to the end of my first month in motor racing when I joined at Fittipaldi and thinking, crikey, I've actually got a salary for being paid to do something that I've got no idea what I'm doing. So, how nobody's rumbled me after these years, I'm not sure.
I always feel the same, don't worry. Adrian, I can tell you're very emotional. I'm delighted that you were able to be here for this, and congratulations on an incredible win.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's Adrian Newey, the Chief Technical Officer at Red Bull. Lots of applause for Adrian Newey there, giving us his take on Max Verstappen, his first ever world title. And we'll have the drivers on the podium before long as well. Jenny Gow, Jolyon Palmer, Jack Nicholls still with us. The fireworks, Jenny, when Max Verstappen crossed the line, they were going for about 10 minutes. It made the London Eye look like the London Pupil.
They really know how to put on a show here. We're standing right under the podium, as you say, and the top drivers coming out, and Lewis Hamilton, you can hear he's making his way up. This is a hard one for him to swallow.
Well, I'm sure we will hear again from Lewis, and he gave that interview to Jenson Button. He's now just peeling off his mask on the podium, and he's giving a round of applause, but you can see Jolyon behind his eyes just how much that hurts.
Oh, it's just gutting for Lewis Hamilton, who's driven a brilliant season. He's come back from a huge deficit and a really tricky position, and he dominated the race. He absolutely dominated it for 57 laps. Okay, there was a moment of contention on lap 1 and a huge moment of drama on the final lap, but it's a harsh one.
Christian Horner is now up on the podium. Of course, they're the winning constructor, but Max Verstappen, with the Dutch flag around his neck, can now celebrate. This is his national anthem and his title.
So the Dutch anthem and then the Austrian anthem, because of course the winning constructor is Red Bull. They have all of their big caps going on, and now Max Verstappen lifts the trophy. It's the race trophy. He doesn't have the World Championship trophy right now, but they will now be handed out, and Lewis Hamilton is about to get that second place trophy. We've got much more to come from here. We also, of course, have Premier League football going on as we speak. It's half-time in our commentary game on Sports Extra. Leicester against Newcastle. Andy Giddings.
And at half-time, it's Leicester City 1, Newcastle United 0. James Maddison, the star in an otherwise low-key first half. His free kick grazed the crossbar early on when chances have been scarce. Before then, engineering a highly contentious, debatable penalty. He appeared to lunge forward as Jamal Lascelles lunged in on him. Contact minimal. Penalty was given. It was dispatched by Yuri Tielemans, sending Depravka the wrong way for his fourth of the season. And that is about that in the first half. So Leicester lead Newcastle by a goal to 0.
Burnley West Ham, Mike Minay.
0-0, not even going to pretend this has had half the drama of the F1. West Ham closest to scoring, Nick Pope denying a Diop header. The Hammers have also had a VAR decision turned down for a penalty too, with McNeil's loose leg on Dawson. Burnley a few half chances, Chris Wood their best hope, but at the break Burnley 0, West Ham 0.
And here comes the champagne. Max Verstappen throwing that bottle back and forth. Christian Horner is getting absolutely drenched. He's gone from 0 to 100 there in about 2 seconds. Lewis Hamilton is just sort of lightly waving the bottle, you know, doing his best to look appeased, but he can't be. He's a winner. He's a 7 times world champion. The glitter now is just spreading all around the podium, and there's just a cheers. There's a clink of bottles between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, and a handshake from Red Bull team principal Christian Horner to Hamilton as well. And Horner now just wipes his wet hair. Verstappen, Jenny, he went in there, and now they have a hug.
Oh yeah, this means the world to him. Sergio Perez is just here in front of me. He's hugging everybody as he goes past the teammate of course, Max Verstappen. Gold ticker tape rains down on our head. Jos Verstappen under the podium as well. Of course, Max's dad, former F1 driver. He's wearing a black hoodie with world champion on it. And this means the world to them, as I fear, Steve Crossman, we are about to get trampled and run over by a gazillion people just making their way away from the podium, licking their wounds or celebrating their highs.
That's all right. This is when it's handy to be 6'1". We shall not be moved. Jack Nicholls, we'll talk all about this, but listen, was the way this finished, it was great for drama, was it good for Formula One?
Yeah, it was ultimately fair. I think, just about. It was unlucky, and it seemed very messy, because as soon as it happened, we knew the scenario, because we've seen it a million times in the past. Safety car comes out, and you're unlucky if you're in the lead when a safety car comes out with 5 laps to go, because the guy behind can have fresh tyres. It's just sort of one of those things. It's a rub of the green sort of thing. The reason it got tricky was because they were not going to let the lapped cars past, so therefore Verstappen couldn't have attacked Hamilton, and that seemed to be the decision. Then they changed their mind right at the end and did, because seemingly Red Bull complained, and so that did do it, and that's how Verstappen won the championship. So that is the sort of controversial element. It's the way they got to the decision rather than the decision itself. I guess my comparison would be like a VAR thing, where the VAR is all a bit nonsense and takes forever and you're not very happy with it. But did it get to a sort of fairish decision? I think it did. Just about. For me, the ultimate fair decision would have been instant red flag, like in Azerbaijan earlier this year. Everybody gets to put new tyres on in the red flag, like Saudi Arabia last week, and then you just have a 5-lap fight in fair conditions. Hamilton had almost no chance of holding on, but I think that was unlucky more than anything else.
The glitter, I can tell you, has just spread in the breeze right across to the Mercedes garage, which I'm sure they won't massively appreciate, because they thought it was going to be all showering over them, and it hasn't been, Jenny.
And normally, after a race, I will come, I'll speak to Toto Wolff, I'll speak to somebody from the Mercedes team, but they have all done a runner. I mean, the champagne would have been on ice. It would have been ready to go. The T-shirts, they would have been printed. They would have been ready to go. But now it's literally staying on ice, because what they thought was a win has disappeared from their grasp, and there is no one here that I can talk to right now, because there must be somewhere Will they go and see Michael Massey? That's the question. Will they go to the stewards? Will they make an appeal? Will the result be questioned?
What would they achieve by going to see Mike? You know, it's one of those things.
What can they lose?
Well,
nothing,
that's
surely.
Fair. Yeah, fair, but it's the same, it's same arguing with the ref, isn't it? Is it going to change the decision? No, they can't, because they can't appeal anything, because even if they said they found some appeal, you can't go, okay, well, we'll call the result before the safety car came in, and that's actually the result. There's no way around it, even if they appeal.
Yeah, you know what I would say was, just looking into the Mercedes garage as we walked past, you could see that there was definitely a sense of, it almost looked like resignation in there, as Max Verstappen has one more wave of the race trophy, holds it in his left hand, Dutch flag all curled up in his right hand, and he will now make his way out of this circuit. And what an incredible victory that was for him. We've just moved away from the Mercedes garage, but yeah, Jack, when I saw Toto Wolff as I walked past him, it wasn't the same look as he had in Jeddah. It was a look of, I'm not happy about this, but what can I do about it?
Well, George Russell tweeted, this is unacceptable. Max is an absolutely fantastic driver who's had an incredible season. I have nothing but huge respect for him. But what just happened is absolutely unacceptable. I cannot believe what we've just seen, said George Russell, who retired from the race, so obviously watched the end.
We're just about to get run over by a car, so I'll move out the way. I've got Kelly Piquet down here, of course, girlfriend of Max Verstappen. That was emotional. That was hard, wasn't it, Kelly?
It was one of the toughest races I've had to watch in my life, and I've seen my brother become world champion as well, Formula E, and both were equally hard to watch, but Max has been a legend and a champion all the way.
Just tell me, what was it like going into this race? What was Max like? He said all along he was calm, but was he?
He was. He was pretty calm. He knows what he's doing.
And now he's a world champion. That must have been excruciating to watch, but tell me, what does it mean to him and you?
I think to him is what he's been fighting for all his life, and his objective, and for me, I'm just very proud to see him achieve it.
He's not going to quit now, is he? Just reassure people at home. It was always his objective. He told me earlier this season it would be game over in a way if he won it. He's won it. He's not going anywhere.
No, he still has a good years to come.
Good.
I bet you didn't tell him that you had a world champion hoodie ready before the race.
No, and I'm happy I have a new dress now.
Yeah, it's long enough, Kelly. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Kelly Piquet, of course, the daughter of Nelson Piquet, the sister of Nelson Piquet Jr. Racing is in her blood, and now she's the girlfriend of a Formula One world champion.
Do you know, Jack, just as I was walking toward the pit lane before all the celebrations began in earnest, I saw people sprinting out of the Red Bull office with big cardboard boxes, and that's what was holding all of the Verstappen champion hoodies and T-shirts. You can bet they were hidden away beforehand. Anyone went near one of those cardboard boxes before he went over the line would have been in big trouble.
Well, this is the interesting thing, because, firstly, when Kelly Piquet did Formula, so I've known Kelly Piquet a long time, and we had a little chat just while we were on air, actually, earlier on, and she was like, couldn't talk because she was so nervous. We were having a conversation halfway through. She's like, look, I'm just too nervous. I can't have a conversation with you. But the other thing is, somewhere, Steve, are boxes of Lewis Hamilton 8-time world champion hoodies. There is somewhere. I know a guy, John Watson, the former racing driver, it has in his loft a Michael Schumacher 1997 world champion Ferrari cap. And they only made 3 just in case he won it, because they didn't want to, jinx it. But it does exist.
Are you
so
saying
somewhere,
you want me to find one?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying go into Mercedes right now. Hey, Toto, look, I know you're not having a bad time. But surely you've got some hoodies kicking around, right? That I could have. Is now not the time?
Probably quite distracted right now as well. So if you're ever going to go and try and snaffle them, maybe now's the time
there's
to
no
do
one
it.
in there. Yeah.
Oh wow! So Jenny and I are now walking down the pit lane. There's actually some more champagne being thrown around in the Aston Martin garage. I mean, if you've got some spare on ice, now's the time to get rid of it, Jenny, because this is it, the end of one of the greatest F1 seasons.
And it will be one of the most talked about F1 seasons forevermore. Coming into this, Max Verstappen said, I know this will be spoken about for 10, 20 years. The way it was done, the manner in which both fought, the Mercedes versus Red Bull drama, it was poetic, it was romantic, it had highs, it had lows, it had crushing defeats, it had big accidents. But you know what? At the end of it, both deserved to win. Only one man, Steve, did win.
85058 at 5 Live Sport. Your message is coming in, Jake. Utter chaos and confusion. I don't know what to think. Evan, I feel for Lewis losing the championship this way. Tom, I know I just feel like a championship shouldn't have ended this way. Charlie, I'm happy. I wanted Max to win, but Lewis was robbed. I mean, look, Jack, this season of all seasons, it was always going to end in the steward's office in some way, shape or form, because the complaints have been constant, and you could hear it in Toto Wolff's voice on that last lap. He was furious.
Well, yeah, and actually I was halfway through that commentary, I was texting the producer at 5 Live saying, it's a bit of a shame, it's ending a bit not quite how we would have wanted, you know. Great, Hamilton's going to win the championship, but not very dramatic, not very, exciting, a bit of a shame.